Chapter 2071. Who said the celestial court is inferior to the Sien people? The imposing figure, the extremely terrifying vicious might. The words he shouted were like millions upon millions of Zhonglong thunderbolts, blasting open the great world, shaking the boundless, immortal world. The whole world was trembling. This might was too tyrannical. The entire Emperor's city was trembling, shaking intensely along with his might. Suyin roared, his blood boiling. Big Brother had arrived. He was still so divine and unequaled. The previous him was restricted by the immortal heavenly region's environment. He didn't display much battle strength. Strictly speaking, this wasn't the original body of the prehistoric Big Brother at all, but a remnant left behind after he became an immortal king. However, in his strongest state, he was definitely an unimaginable giant. His bronze-colored body was domineering, his pupils emitting boundless, bone-piercing, killing intent, piercing the eyes of the crowd until they were bleeding, not daring to look him in the eye. What a great overlord! The old Azure Dragon was shocked. The one who arrived was the most powerful, the most tyrannical. His spiritual will exuberant beyond compare, making a few emperors feel a little apprehensive. So much so that following the complete awakening of the old Big Brother, it was accompanied by war cries, as if it came from the long river of time, suppressing this world, grand to the extreme. This was precisely the Overlord war god of the celestial court, terrifying the world, powerful and unequaled even in his injured state. One could also foresee how prosperous the celestial court was back then. Not only was there a celestial court lord, there were also terrifying giants one after another. The space-time emperor was also greatly alarmed at first, but soon after, he was alarmed. He could vaguely feel that there was something wrong with this old senior's body. His aura couldn't be considered too powerful, but his remnant was surging with unequaled order battle strength. Instantly, the Thunder Immortal Emperor and the other's expression became gloomy. The people of the Celestial Court had arrived. They didn't believe that only these two came. There might be other experts. How long? The prehistoric Big Brother rushed over, arriving at Emperor's City in a tyrannical manner, his divine might vast and mighty, hiding the sky and covering the earth as he attacked the Emperor's City. It was too sudden, too shocking, directly erupting with the most cruel, killing intent. The immortal martial emperors and the others didn't have time to stop it. Strictly speaking, once they couldn't defend against the killing intent of this kind of existence, it would instantly lead to a calamity of death. Emperor's City rumbled, really about to explode. Groups of experts who were related to the Sien people or the Samsara imperial family screamed in horror. It was as if the hand of the god of death had grabbed them and was tearing them apart. Group after group of Emperor Clan experts collapsed uniformly, all of them turning into ashes, exploding into smithereens. Blood was flowing in Emperor's City. This was a bloody event that shook the world. Not even the core region could stop the slaughter of these unmatched giants. Blood seeped through everything, wiping out groups of experts one after another. No! The immortal king screamed miserably. His body suddenly disintegrated, and his primordial spirit shattered. His body and soul were completely destroyed. This was an immortal king, yet he had been crushed to death. Xian Wei Huan of the Xian people screamed in agony. This was an expert who was infinitely close to the grand completion immortal king realm. His body was also torn apart as he howled in despair. He trembled in pain, and very soon, his body completely rotted away, turning into a beam of bloody light. The celestial martial emperor and the others didn't expect the old expert to be so domineering, killing a series of experts related to them. This was simply a declaration of war. Heavens, Emperor's City was bleeding. This kind of invincible overlord, the prehistoric Big Brother, went berserk. The heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. A sea of blood floated. The entire city was dyed red with blood. The number of people who died was incalculable. The world was filled with corpses. So powerful, Phoenix King roared. What kind of invincible combat strength was this? His main body didn't erupt, but the Tao order that whistled out of his body slaughtered the emperor's city, causing blood to flow. Corpses fell from the sky, and several immortal kings exploded. This was a peerless god-devil. The emperor's city began to shake violently, rustling as if it was about to collapse. Fortunately, this city had a terrifying defensive order, flowing with the light of the emperors, blocking the danger of collapse. Everyone was terrified. They trembled and fell to the ground one by one. This was too domineering. The unparalleled war god crossed time and space to look down on the entire emperor's city, his ferocious might surging. Roar! In a certain official residence, in a secret cultivation room, there was an explosion. The young emperor, who was hiding in fear, rushed out. He was covered in blood and was about to be completely pulverized. Fortunately, the Fontion halberd came to life at the critical moment, blocking the prehistoric Big Brother's attack. But even so, the Fontion halberd was also trembling and humming. It was about to collapse from the world-burning power. Young Emperor, this dog has been in the Emperor's city all this time. Someone shouted angrily. He was the instigator of all of this. But the young Emperor had been hiding in the Emperor's city all this time, hiding in his official residence. He didn't even show his face. Now, he was forced to come out alive. Young Emperor, it's good that you're still here. If I don't kill you, I won't be able to vent my anger. Su Yan's anger was boiling. His eyes were as red as blood, and his black hair danced like a waterfall. At this time, Su Yan's primordial spirit suddenly disintegrated, exploding into a rain of soul medicine light that scattered between heaven and earth. He looked divine and holy, and also steamed with a strong luster of yang qi. This was a kind of reconstruction, not a sign of great calamity. Su Yan had completed a reconstruction of his primordial spirit in the three-world mountain. Now, under the stimulation of the black three-world flower, he had completed another reconstruction. The second reconstruction meant that he had a great chance of reaching the Immortal King realm in a short time. Three-world flower, three-world reincarnation. The spirit's sovereign emperor suddenly whispered. This was a rare and precious medicine. Once the three realms flower was completely refined, Su Yan would be able to defy the heavens and break the shackles. His primordial spirit would advance to a terrifying realm. The celestial dragon maiden was startled. She took out a snow-white flower and threw it into the immortal King Fortune Land. Su Yan had completed the third reconstruction and refinement, completely refining the essence of the incomplete primordial spirit. He could directly break through the shackles of the immortal King realm. This was too important for Su Yan's current growth. Bastard! In the Emperor's city, one emperor after another was furious. Things had gone beyond their expectations. The celestial court had come and caused a disaster. Moreover, Su Yan had a chance of reaching the immortal King realm. Old thing, you actually killed so many of us. The immortal martial emperor's eyes were blood red. His aura erupted endlessly as he transformed into an all-powerful immortal martial emperor. He raised his hand and pressed down on the prehistoric Big Brother. Boom! A rain of energy rushed out from the prehistoric Big Brother's body. It was as if he was an overlord of the sacred body that was sleeping in the river of time. What's that? The living beings in the Emperor's city trembled. They suddenly felt a kind of aura that crossed the river of time. It was as if it had crossed over from prehistoric times. It was a blurry shadow that rushed out from the Big Brother's body. The space-time emperor instantly understood that this was the Tao technique in the old senior's body. Although his body couldn't make it, his Tao fruit was still there. He could still erupt. A figure quickly appeared, terrifying to the extreme. Its flesh shell was golden, and its qi and blood were golden. It was terrifying and tyrannical, causing everyone in the world to suffocate. This was the awakening of the prehistoric Big Brother's Tao fruit. The invincible, primitive, sacred body had awakened from its slumber and opened its eyes. The world was filled with blood, and the sun and moon were falling. The Big Brother's golden sacred body waved its fist, causing the great Tao of the immortal world to collapse. This fist was invincible and contained unparalleled divine might. The sky exploded, and the heavens were destroyed. The world was filled with large cracks. Not good. The immortal martial emperor was shocked. He quickly palmed and retreated. His heart was filled with shock. This attack was unparalleled. He felt that once he faced it, he would directly explode. The people in the surroundings were frightened. What was going on? The immortal martial emperor was defeated before the battle. He didn't dare to contend against the prehistoric Big Brother. One had to know that the Big Brother's main body hadn't awakened yet. He only shot out a law of order and formed a Dharma idol body, which directly forced the immortal martial emperor to retreat. Many people were frightened. Just how powerful was this old senior? Could it be that he was comparable to the founders of the Emperor clan? Could it be that he was comparable to the most terrifying group of creatures in the immortal world? Roar! The golden figure roared fiercely. His head of golden hair danced chaotically. In an instant, terror overflowed into the heavens. The roar split the sky dome. Unparalleled fighting strength turned into a berserk wave of energy. In an instant, the influence of the celestial race Emperor's shackles was broken. Emperor's city regained its light. The broken path to the Emperor title was reopened. Great fortune descended. Purple energy overflowed like a tsunami, drowning the immortal king's land of good fortune. The long Daesong roared excitedly. He absorbed the Emperor's Sea to complete his final evolution. Su Yan's primordial spirit body turned into divine radiance. After a short reconstruction, his primordial spirit appeared once again. He decisively absorbed the white flower. The divine and holy aura that existed within it also contained the great mysteries of the three-world reincarnation. Suddenly, Su Yan was shocked. The complete three-realm flower bloomed in his body, and Su Yan also bloomed. He captured the order of the three realms, captured the supreme Tao law. This was a great opportunity. It turned out that the three-realm flower had to be completely absorbed in order to unleash this incomplete emperor medicine to its strongest state. There was hope for the immortal king's primordial spirit. It was very likely to help Su Yan strengthen to a shocking realm. One had to know that this was the creation of space-time. The emperor title was bathed in great fortune. The strongest creation and fortune of the immortal world bloomed with Su Yan. Now, with the three-realm flower accompanying him, the space-time emperor even waved his hand and summoned pieces of remnant materials from the Silver Star's underground treasury. Dao Shui was surprised. What was the relationship between this old man and Su Yan? He had given him great care. These pieces of remnant materials did not look big, but they actually contained the essence of the universe. These were some of the remaining core materials used to forge the Three Realms galaxy. The space-time emperor had originally prepared to build his disciples' immortal king foundation. Now, he naturally wanted to give them to Su Yan. The remnant core of the three-realm membrane fetus contained the mysteries of the universe, and it was very important to Su Yan now. The three pieces of leftover material were hazy with an extremely grand aura of the universe. It was as if they had transformed into a huge shell of the three realms that enveloped Su Yan. Moreover, the sacred fire of the great path gushed out and burned fiercely. Even Su Yan's flesh and blood were burning. Roar! Su Yan roared, and his body seemed to be in the core of the three realms. When I become an immortal king, it will be the day that I, Su Yan, become an emperor. Su Yan's roar shook the heavens. Soon, very soon, the three great creations bloomed with him, and the path to immortal king was infinitely close to Su Yan. He could already sense that within the emperor title, the strongest emperor's Tao was beginning to appear. His title had already begun to brew. Kill! A monstrous battle erupted. If Su Yan's path to emperor could not be stopped, then, given enough time, Su Yan would really become an emperor. Moreover, he grasped the three great creations. Once he mastered them, the Su Yan of that day would be extremely powerful, invincible below the Emperor realm. In the future, he would also have great hopes of reaching the Emperor realm. Who would underestimate a war god imperial prince who had caused the Emperor's city to bleed and the Emperor battlefield to tremble? If he really killed his way to the Emperor's road, This indicated that a terrifying life form was born, and it would be a great threat to the Emperor race. Boom! The prehistoric Big Brothers might suppress the universe. His body did not move, and the laws of order gushed out from his body, turning into an unparalleled golden figure. It became more and more terrifying. The unparalleled prehistoric beast rushed up and attacked the celestial emperor. In an instant, the Sien people's emperor's body shone with endless radiance. When the heaven-opening Emperor's Sutra was activated, it outlined an equally magnificent and huge figure that attacked the prehistoric Big Brother. At the same time, he also saw some clues. There was a huge problem with this person. As long as he could resist his laws, he could kill the prehistoric Big Brother. One was a majestic and domineering war god, while the other was the celestial emperor's Dharma idol. The moment the two peak powerhouses clashed with their laws, the outerverse exploded. Stars fell from the sky like rain, and the terrifying energy waves were like giant mushroom clouds that surged and evaporated. It was more serious than the collapse of the heavens and the earth. It was a terrifying collision of life forms. The prehistoric Big Brother stood above the heavens and the earth. His holy physique was activated, and it was as terrifying as a sea of stars. Wild and domineering energy sources poured down, one after another, endless and without end. Ah! The heaven-opening emperor screamed. The laws that he had evolved with the heaven-opening emperor's sutra were trembling, as if they were about to collapse. This was an invincible giant that was as tall as the heavens and the earth. No matter how powerful and heaven-defying his laws of order were, it was difficult to resist the Big Brother's unparalleled battle strength. His huge arms and blazing golden figure emanated a strength that made even gods and devils tremble. It was peerlessly domineering. In an instant, the Big Brother's huge golden arms tore apart the Emperor Tao laws that filled the sky. Boundless power attacked the celestial emperor's Dharma idol. He even stretched out a huge fist. The moment he waved it, the sky darkened endlessly. It even affected the sky. Suddenly, it blasted toward the celestial emperor's main body. A peerless crisis suppressed his physical body. The celestial emperor's physical body bled, and his emperor body trembled unstably. This was too ferocious. It wanted to crush the celestial emperor in one move. Ah, kill! The celestial emperor roared. His magic power was burning, and his Dharma idol true body wanted to penetrate the emperor body to resist the prehistoric Big Brother's supreme suppression. Kill! A huge roar exploded. The Big Brother was peerless. His majestic appearance burned the heavens. He swept down, and the order of all things in the sea of stars in the heavens surged. The suppressed environment of the celestial world dimmed, as if it was trembling. Dao Shi's expression was calm. This was the transcendental, profound meaning that the master of the celestial court had comprehended. He could display a part of it. If the Big Brother's main body was here, one punch would be enough to kill the celestial emperor. He was not qualified to be compared to the Big Brother. Ah! The celestial emperor screamed. He felt that he was going to be defeated and die. No matter how fiercely his Dharma idol struggled, it could not break away from the vast sea of stars in the heavens. He also hated that he should not have competed with the Big Brother. Otherwise, he would not have fallen into such a situation. In fact, the celestial emperors were much more terrifying than the celestial emperors. This was comparable to the young space-time emperor. Now, the celestial emperor's situation was too fierce. The power he shot out of his body could not return to his emperor body. His main body was facing the misfortune of being hammered to death by the prehistoric Big Brother. He truly felt fear, feeling like he was going to be beaten to death. The giant he encountered had previously instantly killed quite a few creatures similar to himself. Otherwise, this individual's aura wouldn't be so ferocious, about to shatter him in a single exchange. At the critical moment, the princess, who was far away from the battlefield, threw out the celestial emperor armor. It crossed millions of miles and covered the celestial emperor's body, blocking the prehistoric Big Brother's terrifying punch. Even so, The Celestial Emperor's body was trembling. The bloody punch was about to shatter him. His body spurted out blood, and he was about to die. Chapter 2072. Time and space trembled and exploded completely. Big Brother's majestic aura was blazing. The order of his Tao technique was domineering, reflecting the sea of stars in the sky. It was so grand that it could suppress the environment of the celestial world. The Supreme Fist imprint instantly expanded to the extreme and hammered down on the celestial monarch's chest. This was an incomparably tyrannical hammer strike that caused the entire world to tremble. Countless creatures trembled. Everyone felt that the celestial monarch had died. How terrifying was the prehistoric Big Brother? He didn't attack with his main body. He only spat out a wisp of Tao Law and revealed his Dharma idol true body. It filled the universe and whistled with world-burning light. Rumble. The fist imprint was unparalleled. It hit the Celestial Emperor until his body trembled. The Celestial Emperor armor on his body clanged and emitted sparks. The sound of metal colliding echoed. In the vast celestial world, in the distant space-time, the old antiques of various races felt a chill run down their spines. They saw the Celestial Emperor armor caved in and the Celestial Emperor's back protruding. Blood splashed out, melting a world of heaven and earth. Heavens, what kind of ferocious person is that? Countless creatures trembled. They had goosebumps all over their bodies. The Celestial Emperor was almost killed. If not for the Celestial Emperor armor protecting him at the critical moment, his chest would have been penetrated. His Emperor body might have become unstable. Roar! The Celestial Emperor let out an angry roar. This punch unleashed his anger. The Celestial Emperor armor that covered his flesh suddenly blazed. It was as if the sleeping Celestial Emperor was waking up. The aura it emitted was boundless. One had to know that the Celestial Emperor armor was the most precious treasure of the celestial race. It was rumored that the Celestial Emperor armor was forged by the founder of the celestial race and had been passed down for a long time. Once it was revived, the light of emperors would fill the sky and give the Celestial Emperor supreme combat power. In an instant, the Celestial Emperor used the Celestial Emperor armor to block the fatal disaster. He roared through the starry sky. At the same time, his Dharma idol true body that had accidentally leaked out returned to his flesh shell. He roared and charged toward the prehistoric Big Brother. This was a peak battle that shook the celestial world. When they fought, a corner of the celestial world's space-time was riddled with holes. The great Tao was shaken open. A supreme aura endlessly awakened. In the end, the two terrifying giants fought each other and swept across the vast territory. Is this right or wrong? The celestial race had interfered, but who would have thought that the celestial race's emperor would come at such a critical moment? Maybe the celestial race's emperor was riding a tiger and couldn't get off, but he had to attack. Otherwise, if the celestial race's emperor retreated like the starry sky emperor, that would be ridiculous. The celestial emperor. The celestial world. Celestial Emperor, or fight to the death. S. S. TT. Then let's fight. Thunder Immortal Emperor was not afraid. The Celestial Court only sent an old expert who was not at his peak. The current situation was beneficial to them. Wielding the world-extinguishing Thunderhammer, he charged toward the space-time Emperor. This was also a battle of the pinnacle. Whether it was the space-time Emperor or the Thunder Immortal Emperor, since they could become the three giants of the Immortals' Grotto back then, it was enough to show how powerful they were. Roar! The dragon might filled the sky. The Celestial Martial Emperor was instantly stopped by a huge dragon claw that descended from the sky. The dragon claw tore open the sky and wrapped in an unparalleled dragon might, tearing the Celestial Martial Emperor's body apart. Kill! The Celestial Emperor roared. His long hair danced in the wind. Tyrant Fisher was full of celestial martial might. He raised his fist and punched the old Azure Dragon's claw. The two peak experts clashed. On the other battlefield, the Celestial Emperor and the Celestial Emperor were also fighting. This was an unimaginable battlefield. One after another, the emperors roared with terrifying battle power. The celestial Tao was torn apart. The flames of war burned the nine heavens. This kind of battle made the celestial kings tremble. The peak battle that shook the celestial world progressed to a white-hot level. The celestial world was shaken. The majestic pressure swept across the world, drowning the cold outer space. The chaos exploded like a sea. All kinds of destructive and harmful substances continued to spread. Countless stars were destroyed. Some magnificent star fields were disintegrated. Kill! The roars were terrifying. The battle was hard to describe. It was more cruel than the end of the world. There were terrifying scenes that were reflected in the celestial world. It spread to the billions of ancient worlds and caused a huge uproar. The battle of the end of the world was going to blow up the 33 heavens. It broke out of the ancient time and space, forming one death land after another. It revealed an aura that made all living things in the world panic. The huge celestial city was on the verge of collapse. This was a bit ridiculous. The celestial city was built for the purpose of resisting the dark world. Now, a great chaotic battle broke out here. In fact, if the celestial city didn't pay a great price to create the Order of the Emperors, the celestial city would have collapsed long ago. Boom! Suddenly, in the most terrifying battlefield, a corner of the world turned pitch black. The power it unleashed was earth-shattering. Domain Suppression welcomed a great eruption of power. He was like a peerless fiend god who ruled over the nine hells. The Domain Suppression Emperor charged into the battlefield. He raised a huge black palm that covered the sky and smashed toward the prehistoric Big Brother's body. However, when this palm was infinitely close to the Celestial King's body, chaos filled the sky. It emitted an ocean-like vitality. A bamboo grew vigorously. It was like a carrier that outlined the Tao of the heavens. It attacked the Domain Suppression Emperor's hand. Boom! The world-shaking collision caused the entire area to explode. Bloody light flowed everywhere as Domain Suppression Emperor's giant palm trembled. It was as if it had been struck by a primal Chaos Emperor weapon. Bloody light sputtered out from the center of his palm and crushed a part of the void. There's still someone else. The Domain Suppression Emperor's expression was unsightly. The thing protecting the Celestial King's body was a mysterious, chaotic bamboo. It blocked the Domain Suppression Emperor's attack. This chaotic bamboo transformed into a woman dressed in green. She stood in front of the Celestial King's body with peerless elegance. The bamboo moon was pleasantly surprised. It was the sky bamboo progenitor. She had been reforged from death and destruction and reached new heights. Her body was so terrifying that it could be considered the toughest Emperor weapon. The Domain Suppression Emperor's attack didn't succeed. Moreover, she reached out with a jade-like palm. It was boundless and contained the chaotic star sea. It contained a sky full of divine bamboos. It could be said that there were millions upon millions of them as it charged toward the Domain Suppression Emperor. The battle in the Celestial City escalated once again. The nine heavens were completely shattered by the Emperor's attacks. If one were to look from the outer realms, they would see that a huge hole had appeared in this world. Bloody light surged as all kinds of terrifying destructive substances surged out and charged into the outerverse. They burned the outerverse until it was boiling. Some people felt that the nine heavens had collapsed, while others felt that the land beyond the heavens had fallen. The enormous celestial city was riddled with holes and destroyed in a single moment. When the emperors fought, everything in the world was destroyed. Su Yan, it's all your fault. You should have died in the three-world mountain. Suddenly, a mournful roar exploded. The Shao Di rushed toward the area covered by the Great Fortune. He used the Fontian halberd to smash open a path and rush towards Su Yan's creation space. The Shao Di bastard is going to find Su Yan. Tai Baokai shouted angrily. He was also burning with anxiety. Su Yan had already turned into the three-world membrane. The fetus was absorbing the creation materials to cultivate the immortal king's physical body. If it was stopped, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yi Lin Yun immediately rushed over to stop the Shao Di. For now, The area where Su Yan was very quiet. After all, the path to becoming an emperor continued. The great fortune had descended from the heavens and blocked the emperor's attacks. It was the only pure land in the celestial city. However, Yilin could not get close at all. The pressure inside was so strong that it made him lose his composure. The Shao Di could ignore the pressure of the Emperor's Sea with the help of the Emperor weapon, but it was difficult for Yilin to do so. However, he did not understand why the false immortal King Long Daesong could enter and even absorb the Emperor's Sea. After all, this substance was too high-end. Even a great success immortal king would find it difficult to refine. It was harmful to living beings below the Emperor realm. Su Yan, come out and die. The Shao Di roared, his eyes bloodshot. Even if this matter ended, would he be able to survive? Would the Xian people let him go so easily? The immortal martial emperor did not hand the Shao Di over only for the sake of the Emperor clan's reputation. However, a series of bloodshed was too terrifying. The Shao Di had a premonition that the future would be filled with despair. Therefore, he had to kill Su Yan. He glared at the immortal king's fortune land and said with grief and indignation, "How can an ant from the lower world be crowned as an emperor? The heavens are blind. Su Yan, I will tear you to pieces." He waved his giant palm and was about to press down on the immortal king's fortune land. Roar! A low dragon's roar was heard, as if it was an angry dragon. In the immortal king's fortune land, the shadow of a huge beast loomed in the Emperor's Sea, its eyes shining with golden light. The dragon's roar was endless, like a guardian god guarding the immortal king's fortune land. The huge beast shadow walked out of the cave and growled at the Shao Di, its eyes emitting a bone-chilling, murderous intent. A mount dares to stand out? Kill. The Shao Di's expression was cold. He waved his hand, wanting to destroy the immortal cave together with Long Daesong. Long Daesong's expression was cold. Like a furious lion, it suddenly let out a loud roar. The low and deafening dragon's roar seemed to have come from beyond the heavens. It's really taking shape. The old dragon glanced and stared at Long Daesong. He wanted to see how strong a 10 transformation true dragon was. Kill it, you beast! The Shao Di's giant hand came slamming down. His palm was blazing and extremely powerful. Roar! Long Daesong went completely berserk. The moment it attacked, its body shone with divine light. The golden horn on its forehead pushed forward and collided with the Shao Di's giant hand. This scene made some people shudder. They were worried that Long Daesong would be killed by the Shao Di's slap. But what happened next stunned everyone. The horn on Long Daesong's forehead seemed to have awakened as it pierced through the Shao Di's giant hand. Long Daesong's roar shook the sky. Its forehooves pressed against the ground, and its head shook. The world was shaking violently. Arg! The Shao Di screamed in pain. His entire hand was torn apart. His arm was cracked by the violent power of Long Daesong. He was sent flying and hit the ground. Long Daesong's nose and mouth spewed out yin and yang qi. It looked askance at the Shao Di. Its hooves stomped on the ground. One step after another, a complete 10 transformation true dragon appeared in the sky and let out a loud roar. That roar was accompanied by 9 dragon roars. When the 10th roar swept out, the Shao Di's body shook violently. The blood in his body was boiling, and his body was about to explode. Arg! The Shao Di screamed in pain. Blood spurted out of his pores. He looked terrible. It was difficult to get up. His heart was almost crushed by the roar. Long Daesong raised its hooves and crushed the Shao Di as if it was crushing a bug. Chapter 2073. The whole world trembled. One should know that that was the young emperor. Now, he was being roared by Su Yan's immortal king mount. His body trembled and almost exploded. Everyone in the world was stunned. What was going on? Previously in the immortal cave, the world had experienced the power of Su Yan's mount. However, they would never have thought that the Long Daesong now had the combat power to suppress a great success immortal king. Could it be that a peerless dragon that was not inferior to the imperial war god was being cultivated? The celestial court had another fierce general. After all, it was a 10 transformations true dragon, a legendary spirit that defied nature. When it broke into the immortal king realm, the 9 dragons merged and formed a complete 10 transformations true dragon. It was so terrifying that it seemed like it could destroy the world. Boom! The huge golden hoof fell from the sky, causing the void to rumble. Not only did the hoof block the sky, but it also contained extreme power. It was as if the ancestral dragon was born from the fusion of 9 dragons. Its terrifying aura filled the space and time. B** starred. The young emperor's hair was disheveled as he let out a shrill cry. He was being beaten like a dog by Su Yan's mount. He could not bear it. He could not let the long Daesong step on his body. The young emperor's trembling body glowed as he activated the heaven-opening Immortal Sutra. He roared and reconstructed his combat power at lightning speed. In the end, the young emperor held the immortal martial halberd in his hand. The whistling aura shattered the space and time. The Emperor Dao Law extended and slashed upward. A huge crack appeared in the sky. Roar! The long Daesong let out a manic roar. He immediately retracted his hoof. His head was blazing with golden light. The horns on his head were shaped like the ancestral dragon's killing weapon. There were dragons coiling in the horns, and they instantly collided with the immortal martial halberd. "You evil creature, you're courting death," the young emperor roared. This was an emperor weapon. The immortal martial halberd's power was boundless. In an instant, it collided with the long Daesong's horns. A loud explosion rang out. To everyone's disbelief, the web between Xiao Di's thumb and forefinger was torn apart. He let out a miserable howl as the sky piercer he was holding was knocked away. His entire body fell to the ground as he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. "This is impossible." Xiao Di's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he trembled all over. What kind of monster was this? Not even the emperor weapon was able to kill it. Even the emperor weapon in his hand was sent flying. What kind of creature was this? How could his foundation be so heaven-defying and matchless? Daesong, Bamboo Moon cried out in grief and indignation. She saw that the horns on Long Daesong's forehead were also almost broken. Blood was gushing out, dyeing his head red. Long Daesong howled. It was in so much pain that it was shedding tears. The horns on its forehead were cracked. If not for the 9 dragons revolving around it at the critical moment, Long Daesong's horns would have been broken. The scene was heart-wrenching. Although Long Daesong was now unparalleled to Tai Bao Kai and the others, it was like a child. This scene made them cry out in grief. "Celestial Dragon Maiden, give your 10,000 dragon armor to Daesong," East Demon shouted. Celestial Dragon Maiden smiled bitterly. Although the 10,000 dragon armor was extremely powerful, only she could use it. Even if she gave it to Long Daesong, it would not be able to unleash its full power. Roar! Long Daesong roared as blood flowed from its head, dyeing its body red. It was as if it had grown up and turned into a tenacious warrior, guarding Su Yan's place of seclusion. Long Daesong even charged forward, its golden beast eyes emitting a cold, murderous intent. Along the way, chi and blood surged and the void collapsed. A blood-stained immortal king rushed over. Its huge body descended from the sky, and its 4 hooves stomped towards the young emperor at the same time. Young emperor's injuries were also extremely serious. Now that the threat of death was close, he moved his body with all his might and forcefully tore it apart. Long Daesong's energy field suppressed him and sent him flying towards the Fontion halberd. Even so, young emperor's speed was still a little slow. One of his arms was crushed by Long Daesong's stomp. "You beast!" Young emperor seemed to have lost his mind. Even with one of his arms broken, his remaining arm gripped the Fontion halberd again. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared, wanting to kill Long Daesong. Long Daesong breathed out golden air from its nose and mouth, its hooves stomping on the ground as it prepared to charge. It would not allow young emperor to get close to Su Yan's place of seclusion. "You beast, you're really loyal. I'm going to blast you into pieces." Young emperor rushed over, his Fontion halberd sweeping across the sky, flowing with a tyrannical aura and killing intent. In an instant, Long Day Song, who had a solemn expression, let out a joyful cry. He sensed an extremely familiar aura awakening. It was as if an endless sun had exploded in the immortal king creation ground. The divine light was so dazzling that it made one's eyes bleed. It was like a supreme deity looking down on the world with the vast light of reincarnation. It was like a supreme deity who had survived 3 reincarnations, exuding a monstrous soul chi and endless yang chi. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The golden primordial spirit looked solemn as it sat cross-legged in the immortal king creation ground. One after another, 9 shields flew out and revolved around Long Day Song, instantly triggering the condensed 9 escape worlds. Oh! Long Day Song cried out joyfully. The 9 escape worlds revolved around it, making it look a little terrifying. Su Yan's primordial spirit has finished breaking through. He's going to become an immortal king, Tai Baokai shouted. The primordial spirit in the immortal king realm and the mystic 9 escape techniques had stimulated the ancient universe's starry sea world to reveal a peerless divine might, instantly suppressing the light of billions of stars. This scene was terrifying. The starry domain was vast, and an ancient and majestic aura was released. This world was moving toward resurrection, revealing a huge and majestic fluctuation. It actually emitted a power that broke through the immortal king realm and surged toward the emperor realm. It was a little inconceivable. The mystic 9 escape techniques were the 9 most powerful treasures of the Mystic Gate lineage. Legend had it that they were forged by the ancestors of the Earth Immortals, seizing the good fortune of heaven and earth. The stronger the cultivation of the expert who controlled the 9 escape techniques, the more terrifying the might they could unleash. Kill. The heavenly halberd in the young emperor's hand burned endlessly, surging with a terrifying emperor's might, crushing the starry sea world. This heavenly halberd was incomparably heavy, emitting a violent wave of energy about to blast the 9 escape worlds away. Unfortunately, this world was different in the end. There was great fortune, there was the order of the Emperor's Sea, and the 9 escape worlds seemed to be standing at the peak state, seizing the good fortune of heaven and earth, gathering the great might of the universe, suppressing the entire world. No matter how powerful the heavenly halberd was, it couldn't break through the 9 escape worlds. Moreover, the mystic 9 escape techniques spun in the air, and the escape worlds rapidly enlarged one after another, like 9 curtains hanging from the sky, covering the sky and splitting the sun. It was so terrifying that it made immortal kings tremble. Suppress. Su Yan's primordial spirit blazed, releasing the voice of the great Tao. The 9 escape techniques carried 9 universes, vast and boundless. As if 9 universes were opened, the power shocking the world and making ghosts and gods weep. The heavenly halberd couldn't withstand it and was trembling. The young emperor's body was also trembling, coughing out large mouthfuls of blood. He couldn't withstand it and was about to be killed. How is this possible? The young emperor cried out miserably. He was a grand completion immortal king, and he wielded an emperor weapon, but the heavenly halberd was suppressed, and he couldn't withstand the power of the 9 escape techniques. His body was about to explode. He even had a premonition that once the mystic 9 escape techniques pressed down, he wouldn't be able to survive at all, and would be blasted into pieces. East Demon's heart was surging. It had changed. Everything had changed. He really wanted to roar towards the sky. Everything had changed. Su Yan had already become an expert, a peerless expert, an existence that even emperors feared, rising from the weak, dominating the immortal devil battlefield, sweeping through the emperor-sealed battlefield, his glory overflowing the heavens, his radiance millions of zhang, illuminating the immortal world. Emperor City, the journey here was extremely dangerous, foreshadowing all kinds of great fear and danger. Su Yan was in the great whirlpool, and in the end he relied on his peerless combat strength to become an emperor, fighting for a great fortune. What was the immortal King Fortune land in front of such great fortune? The Three Realms flower reconstructed the primordial spirit, and the Three Realms membrane embryo tempered the body. This step was too big, directly crossing the forbidden region and advancing towards the immortal king region. His body and primordial spirit broke through one after another. Although the order of the universe maintained the immortal Tao fruit, once his body crossed into the immortal king region, how terrifying would Su Yin be? For example, the young emperor was bullying Su Yin again and again. But now he was trapped in the mystic nine escape techniques and couldn't get out at all. His life was firmly in Su Yan's hands. Su Yin, you bullied me. I won't accept it. I won't accept it. The young emperor's eyes were red. Su Yin didn't choose to kill him, and instead trapped him in the mystic nine escape techniques world. What was he trying to do? It's too easy for you to kill you like this. In the depths of the immortal King Fortune Land, immortal radiance surged and surged. The three worlds membrane was burning fiercely, revealing an extremely terrifying life force, as if the immortal fetus that had been sealed for hundreds of millions of years was being born. Suddenly, a terrifying pulsating sound appeared, pressing down on the young emperor who was trapped in the mystic nine escape techniques world, making him feel suffocated and uncomfortable. It was like the sound of the universe's pulse, or more accurately, it was the beating of the heart. The sound was like the sea, and it became more and more terrifying. The young emperor's eyes turned black, and his eardrums were about to burst. He was in disbelief. Was he, the young emperor, not powerful enough? Naturally, he was extremely powerful. However, he was nothing in front of Su Yan. Just the sound of his heartbeat alone was like the sound of thunder. It was like the beating of a heavenly drum that shook the nine heavens. Boom! A huge crack suddenly appeared in the three worlds membrane, corresponding to Su Yan's heart. It was like a golden heart was burning within his body, and it gushed out a vast ocean of vitality that surged and surged violently. It seemed as if it was about to transform into the blood of an immortal king, and it covered Su Yan's limbs and bones, causing his slumbering body's functions to welcome a great eruption. In the immortal King Fortune Land, the divine light was dazzling, illuminating the blood-stained nine heavens. Cracks appeared one after another, and each time and space crack affected the deep space-time, affecting the entire great Fortune Land. In an instant, it was full of holes. What a terrifying aura! It was as if the chaos god of war sleeping in the three worlds was slowly awakening. Boom! The three realms membrane fetus had completely collapsed. What was left behind were broken rocks and leftover materials that had lost all their value. They fused with Su Yan's body and forged a figure with unparalleled divine might. The great Tao of heaven and earth trembled under his feet. Although he didn't have the immortal King Tao fruit, he had the body of an immortal king. His entire body seemed to have stepped out of the ancient world, and a vast figure rose behind him, filling the ancient star sea. It was so grand that it was unattainable. The stars in the sky seemed extremely small in front of his figure, peerless and terrifying, unparalleled in the past and present. Su Yin was valiant, walking on the great Tao. As he breathed, the stars were infinitely dim, as if they were deprived of life. But when Su Yin breathed out, heaven and earth roared, and in an instant, the stars in the sky seemed to be rearranged. Tao! How terrifying! Some experts in the imperial city screamed in horror. Was this the body of an immortal king? What a joke! The physique was too domineering, and the land beyond the heavens was distorted. The mighty aura in Su Yan's body was like a giant mushroom cloud rising, tearing the nine heavens apart and filling the 33 heavens. Young Emperor, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and accept your death. Su Yan's divine might was awe-inspiring, and his divine eyes were like lightning. The terrifying aura made the immortal kings tremble on the ground. Chapter 2074. Is this a myth? He crossed the taboo and directly charged into the immortal king realm. This is too fake. This is simply impossible. All the spirits cried out uncontrollably. not daring to believe what they were seeing. Even the emperors were shocked. Su Yan had really walked on the heaven-defying path. The immortal martial emperor and the others were incomparably furious. This was the great fortune of the immortal world. It was ridiculous. Several emperors had stepped forward, but they couldn't suppress Su Yan's path. The imperial fortune had given Su Yan the strongest space to grow. This was a little ridiculous. The three emperor clans had gathered to suppress Su Yan, who was at the emperor realm, but they couldn't completely suppress him. Instead, he rushed forward and crossed into the immortal king realm. In fact, from the beginning of this battle until now, Su Yan had suffered many injuries. They were the ones who had suffered heavy losses. The most furious was the young emperor, because he was too dim in front of Su Yan. After all, the young emperor was a grand completion immortal king and was also the pride of the Xian people. But in front of Su Yan, he was very weak. This difference was too ridiculous. At the same time, people didn't find it strange. What kind of existence was Su Yan? He had destroyed the imperial battlefield. Who had the qualifications to dominate and be respected in front of him? Buzz. Su Yan's figure was covered with a vast aura. In the process, he felt that the burden on his body was very great and he felt very tired. When the reconstructed primordial spirit entered the top of his head and sat cross-legged in the sea of consciousness, Su Yan's body functions were extremely domineering. Everything could be operated freely. Although he was still a little weak, this didn't affect Su Yan's peak battle strength. This also showed the importance of the immortal king Dao fruit and the danger of comprehending the Dao. A moment of carelessness could lead to death. In this battle, Su Yan didn't expect that the space-time emperor still had a part of the three realms membrane embryo. He grew in the soil of creation formed by the three realms membrane embryo and absorbed the essence of the universe. Combined with the great profundity of the heavenly palm, he pushed his body to the immortal king realm in advance. However, Su Yan felt that this was not the strongest Su Yan, nor did it fit Su Yan's invincible path. After all, this was a form of pulling up seedlings to help them grow. But now, Su Yan didn't care. He had to obtain power. He had to be crowned emperor. He had to stand above the immortal world. He had to be indomitable. If he could survive, he would choose to destroy the immortal king's physical body and walk through the immortal king's orthodoxy again. Although this wasn't enough to prove Su Yan's path to glory, what he urgently needed was naturally unrivaled strength. One had to know that the heavenly palm was an inheritance. It was boundless, so naturally. It was also an invincible inheritance. I won't accept this. Xiao Di roared. How could he kneel before Su Yan? You evil creature. Killing you would only dirty my hands. Su Yan glanced at the imperial city, at the bleeding world, and said coldly, all of this happened because of you. Don't you feel guilty? Winner takes all. That's the truth since ancient times. Xiao Di laughed maniacally. You, Su Yan, may have won temporarily, but you can't leave the imperial city. You can't leave the immortal world. The imperial clans won't allow you to leave. Even if you're crowned emperor, it won't change anything. Why should I leave? Su Yan laughed, looking at the bleeding imperial city. Since I've decided to stay and fight, I, Su Yan, won't run away pathetically. On the other hand, if the imperial clans want to kill me, they won't be able to do so without paying a great price. What else are you talking about? Just kill me. Xiao Di's eyes burned like torches. He was angry and unwilling, but what else could he say? At the same time, even if Xiao Di survived, the Xian people wouldn't forgive him. He was the cause of all this. Even the divine clans and reincarnation imperial clans wouldn't let him go easily, let alone the Xian people. Killing you is too easy. Su Yan shook his head and waved at him. I'll give you a chance. If you can survive one of my attacks, I'll spare your pathetic life. Su Yan, do you think I'm a pushover? Xiao Di's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and his entire body emitted boundless anger. This was a great humiliation. He was a great success, immortal king. How could he lose to Su Yan, who didn't even have an immortal king Dao fruit? Boom! Xiao Di roared into the sky. His body burned, and the heaven-splitting immortal sutra was activated to the extreme. In his domain, the great success immortal King Tao fruit was blooming. It was so profound that it seemed like the beginning of a golden age in the immortal realm. Kill! Shao Di's roar shook the shattered sky, and his invincible combat power was released. His body seemed to have turned into the space-time of the immortal realm, and there was a majestic chanting sound. Billions of bursts of power blotted out the sky and covered the earth as he attacked Su Yin. Terrifying, ferocious power flowed, destroying heaven and earth. Violent winds blew, and divine power surged. Immortal light was blazing, and Su Yan's long black hair was swept up. It was like an unreachable world of the immortal realm, endlessly devouring Su Yin. Phoenix King and the others widened their eyes and watched Su Yin kill Shao Di. This battle was fought for himself, and also for the space-time emperor. Then, just as the destruction was about to affect Su Yin, and it seemed to have angered the gods of the nine heavens, a rain of blood fell from the sky. Su Yan's aura also became terrifying in an instant. His body didn't move at all, and he was like a supreme human emperor looking down on the vast universe, full of peerless dominance. "What's that aura?" Everyone screamed in horror. The world behind Su Yin was resurrected, and everything in the heavens was rotating. Time and time were also rumbling, as if the river of time was opened and history was blasted open. This was the true grandness of the extreme. Kill! Shao Di was burning with anger, and he exploded with the most invincible power to break Su Yan's defensive order. He also seemed to have gone mad, and his flesh burned fiercely. His combat strength was overwhelming, and it was undeniable that he was very powerful and terrifying. However, no matter how amazing Shao Di's combat strength was, he still couldn't touch Su Yin. It was as if they were separated by an entire world, a long river of time. Su Yan's body was in the midst of everything in the heavens, and he was as majestic as a supreme being. Phoenix King roared in excitement. Su Yin had become a peerless figure, and he was invincible below the Emperor realm. "You can't." Su Yin pointed at Shao Di and shook his head. "I gave you a chance, but it's a pity that you're useless." He stepped into the sky, and his body still didn't move, like an invincible god of war standing in the center of the world. In an instant, the world Su Yin was unchanged. In the space beyond the heavens, huge golden palm prints came down one after another. They were somewhat illusory and hazy, but they were extremely terrifying. This was the eruption of the heavenly palm. It operated the order of heaven and earth, the universe's space-time, and also the imperial city's great Tao order. In an instant, millions of palm prints appeared behind Su Yan's back. This was a shocking scene. Was this still the Su Yan he knew? His cultivation was unfathomable, and his body seemed to have turned into the origin of everything in the heavens. Millions of palm prints appeared in the sky, and it was so terrifying that it could destroy the world. Bam! The space-time of the immortal realm collapsed, and it couldn't withstand the power of the heavenly palm. In an instant, countless palm prints appeared on Shao Di's body. He didn't know how many palm prints he had been hit by. His aura was constantly declining, and his body was constantly broken. The immortal martial emperor and the others screamed as Shao Di was beaten to death. From the beginning to the end, Su Yin didn't move at all. He was like a supreme god looking down on heaven and earth. He operated the order of heaven and earth and evolved the heavenly palm to destroy a great success immortal king. Ha! Ha ha ha! The space-time emperor seemed to have become much younger. His battle with the Thunder Immortal Emperor had reached the most critical moment. Both of them were bathed in Emperor's blood and had gone mad from the battle. The sky was filled with blood rain, accompanied by miserable screams. Shao Di felt despair and helplessness. He trembled before Su Yin like an ant. His primordial spirit was still intact, and he screamed, "Kill me, kill me." Shao Di wanted to commit suicide after losing all his dignity. His Tao heart had been broken by Su Yin. He could only crawl and tremble in front of Su Yin and howl in despair. "Kill me," Xiao Di screamed. His eyes were red, and tears of blood rolled down his cheeks. At this moment, Xiao Di felt a rare trace of guilt. If it weren't for this series of events, how powerful would Su Yin be? It would be unimaginable, a supreme achievement that could establish the glory of the Emperor clan. Unfortunately, this trace of guilt quickly dissipated. They were mortal enemies, and Su Yin must be eliminated. Otherwise, the Xian people's future would be destroyed. Su Yan's forehead burned brightly, and the aura of catastrophe poured down. It was clearly an immortal king's primordial spirit, but it exuded the power of heaven's punishment, as if it represented the supreme will of heaven and earth, and judged Xiao Di here. Boom! Time and space were smelted, and the wind howled. Lightning struck one after another. The aura was too violent, and it affected many people along with the aura of catastrophe. This was the most powerful secret art of three disasters. When combined with the three supreme extraordinary items, the aura was overwhelming. In an instant, Xiao Di's primordial spirit screamed in fear. The fire burned his primordial spirit, the lightning struck his soul, and the wind tore his soul light apart. In a very short time, Xiao Di's primordial spirit exploded. The world was vast, and many people trembled. That was Xiao Di, and yet his body and soul were destroyed in the last moment. Some people screamed. He deserved it. The bloodshed in the imperial city was all caused by Xiao Di. It was all because of him. He deserved to die. Some people thought that he died too easily, and that Su Yin should cut him to pieces. If only time could go back, how great would that be? Some people screamed. The imperial war godson would not come back. He would either die in battle or leave. No matter what, he would no longer belong to the immortal world. No, look. All of a sudden, many people were shocked. This was because Su Yan's large hand had reached out and grabbed the soul light that had exploded. There was an indescribable order in this ball of soul light that flowed within the soul energy. This was a seal. It was a seal set by an emperor. As long as Xiao Di's primordial spirit was not completely destroyed, the seal would not exist. So what was it that was sealed? It was the heaven-splitting immortal sutra, the most terrifying treasure of the Xian people. At this moment, all the living beings in the world were shocked. The two Xian people's emperor screamed. What was Su Yin doing? He calmed down, and his primordial spirit burned brightly as if he was exploring the past, present, and future. He was using the stealing heaven technique to steal the heaven-splitting immortal sutra from Xiao Di's primordial spirit. This was terrifying and outrageous. At the same time, it also indicated that the stealing heaven technique was worthy of being called an unparalleled divine art. The moment the celestial martial emperor lost control of his mind, his arm was broken by the old azure dragon's claw. The same happened to the regent suppression emperor. His shoulder was broken by the chaos bamboo, and half of his body was trembling. The two emperors screamed as if they had gone mad. If Su Yin stole the heaven-splitting immortal sutra, it would be the biggest scandal of the Xian people. The storm in the imperial city howled. Even the emperors were about to fall, and the Xian people's sutra was stolen again. In the next moment, the world trembled, and finally, a terrifying aura of destruction swept over. Old monsters from the three emperors' clans came one after another. They crossed mountains and rivers and headed for the imperial city. It was like a group of lords of the celestial world descending upon the world. It was an extremely cruel scene. A group of emperors from the three emperors' clans came, and their auras were as cold as purgatory. Boom! An earth-shattering roar exploded. The prehistoric Big Brother used the stealing heaven technique to steal the celestial martial emperor's origin and interfere with his chi and blood. Even the celestial emperor armor could not stop the stealing heaven technique. The gods were shocked. If not for the strongest treasure, the celestial martial emperor would have been killed by the Big Brother. Kill! The prehistoric Big Brother roared. He grabbed the celestial martial emperor's body and smashed it toward the emperors who were rushing over from the distant world. Crazy. Everyone in the world trembled. What kind of giant was this? A demon venerable or an immortal master? He was charging toward a group of old giants alone. Was he going to face the old monsters from the three emperors' clans alone? Chapter 2075. Long, the vast world rumbled and trembled. Heaven and earth were in chaos. Even the great Tao fell. The celestial monarch cried out in grief. He was heavily injured and was now treated as a human weapon in humiliation. He was a dignified monarch and even a monarch of this generation of the celestial race. The prehistoric Big Brother was ferocious and tyrannical. Although he didn't participate in this battle with his true body, he was comparable to the glorious progenitor who established the monarch race. He dominated the space and time and smashed the celestial monarch's body into the distant land. Roar! The group of old monsters who rushed over also seemed to have gone mad. This was an unimaginably intense collision. The dome of heaven collapsed, and the 9 layers of heaven collapsed. Even the land beyond the heavens was trembling. Ancient worlds were shattered one after another. The prehistoric Big Brother fought a group of terrifying creatures. Moreover, his avatar's body was unceasing. The stealing heaven technique robbed the celestial world's origin of order to maintain his strength to continue fighting. The distant world rumbled violently. The loud noise reached the heavens. What is that? The experts of the various sects who were watching the battle were shocked. They sensed that the space-time emperor's body seemed to be burning and leaking his emperor's origin. He was risking his life. The Thunder Immortal Monarch was about to go crazy. He didn't want to continue fighting this battle, but he wasn't in the mood at all. The space-time emperor wanted to fight him to the death. Now, he even took out his emperor's origin. He wanted to fight him to the death. Kill! The space-time emperor let out a loud roar. He, who was burning his emperor's origin, gathered time and space. It was terrifying to the extreme. In his domain, he was so brilliant that he wanted to cut off the vast sky of history. Dao Shuyi's eyes looked at the space-time emperor. This attack was quite shocking. A space-time blade that was about to cut off the long river of time gradually appeared. It caused the great Tao of the heavens to collapse and cut off the long river of time. It was as if a corner of the long river of time was about to collapse. This was simply terrifying. It was comparable to a peak monarch. Dao Shuyi was shocked. This was an invincible emperor technique. Among the peerless gods and demons in the celestial court that she knew, except for the top few, the others couldn't block this peerless attack of the space-time emperor. In fact, this was a battle of life and death. If the space-time emperor could not hold on any longer, he would die. In fact, a battle of life and death could evolve into such power. In the future, as long as the space-time emperor did not wither away and continue to explore the emperor's road, he would definitely become an absolute powerhouse. Reality proved that the prosperity of a mortal realm had some strange geniuses, some old monsters, extremely terrifying and exceptional. This had to be acknowledged. Otherwise, the immortal world wouldn't be as powerful as it was now. This made Dao Shuyi worried. She was in charge of protecting her big brother's body, but in the current situation, it wouldn't be easy for her to leave. Slash! The space-time emperor brought out the space-time blade and chopped it down. The ferocious might that could tear apart the ancient river was even more terrifying than the strike he had used to kill the demon heaven monarch. The Thunder Immortal Emperor felt a headache coming on. He desperately circulated the heaven-opening lightning scripture to block the space-time emperor's attack. But very soon, the Thunder Immortal Emperor's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he discovered that his order law was collapsing. At this moment, the Thunder Immortal Emperor felt desperate. No matter how powerful and shocking his defense was, it was useless. He couldn't seal the space-time emperor. Su Yin, F*CK your ancestors. Ah, you goddamn bastard. The Thunder Immortal Emperor's eyes were bloodshot. He was really going crazy. He screamed mournfully and was about to go crazy because he felt that he was going to die. He was going to be killed by Su Yin. Dao Shuyi was astonished. What's going on? Although he was an emperor who borrowed the environment of the immortal world to transform, he was still extremely powerful. What terrible thing did Su Yan do to make the Thunder Immortal Emperor go crazy? He was cursing like a shrew, because his heaven-opening lightning scripture had already been imparted to the space-time emperor and the others by Su Yan. His life gate was directly broken. The terrifying blade couldn't be blocked. The Thunder Abyss collapsed into a huge rift valley and split the Thunder Immortal Emperor into two. The Emperor has fallen. The world was filled with blood. The death of an emperor was even more serious than the collapse of the heavens and the earth. The universe was smelted and exploded into ashes. The Thunder Immortal Emperor had fallen. No one would have thought that the first to fall would be the Thunder Immortal Emperor. Roar! The space-time emperor let out a loud roar. His appearance was extremely weak. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and was on the verge of collapse. He was really going to die. He had exhausted everything. However, he let out a maniacal laugh. He stretched out his arms and grabbed the Thunder Immortal Emperor's body, swallowing the broken emperor's origin in his body. At this point, the space-time emperor could let go of everything. He wanted to use the Thunder Immortal Emperor's origin to create the strongest space-time emperor of the era. The Thunder Immortal Emperor has fallen. Everyone shouted. The first emperor had died. He was torn into two by the space-time emperor. At the same time, it also indicated that the Thunder Immortal Emperor's lineage was completely destroyed. After all, those who survived now were all insignificant characters. They were not worth mentioning. The Emperor had fallen. The bloody battle between the powerhouses had reached its climax. Many people were also paying attention to Su Yan. Some didn't believe that he could steal the heaven-opening immortal scripture, but gradually they didn't think so. With Su Yan's current primordial spirit, the heaven-stealing art was very shocking. This was a supreme divine art that could steal the great treasures of the heavens. He dug out the scripture characters from the exploded soul, origin one after another. This was too crazy. How'd he do it? One had to know that even if an emperor suddenly attacked, it would be very difficult to dig out the sealed scripture characters. Su Yan really dug out the heaven-opening immortal scripture. After all, the young emperor had the complete heaven-opening immortal scripture. The rolling scripture characters had a divine and holy aura. They were chanting the scripture on their own, emitting an auspicious aura. The divine aura danced in the sky, as if it was creating an eternal, immortal realm, space-time. Su Yan's expression was cold. He sat cross-legged in the land of great fortune. His primordial spirit constantly used the heaven-stealing art to steal the scripture memories in the young emperor's sea of consciousness. The speed wasn't too fast, but it wasn't too slow either. However, as the time he spent stealing increased, the speed at which he stole also increased. Su Yan smiled. The heaven-opening immortal scripture, the favorite of the Xian people. He suddenly fell in the imperial city today. This scripture would be made public, and the entire immortal world would remember this day. Su Yan's eyes flashed with a strange light. He noticed that the great fortune bestowment was faintly disrupted. Was it coming to an end? But soon, he caught a glimpse of the ancient will of the immortal world. It was like a purple vertical eye that was watching him. Su Yan calmed down. He was about to be crowned a monarch, and the monarch horoscope laws would appear and bless Su Yan. Suddenly, Su Yan's hair stood on end. A peerless sense of danger swept over him, making him feel as if he had fallen into the abyss of death. Boom! Su Yan roared. His figure came back to life like lightning. He stood at the peak and even took out the heavenly mysterious armor and the humanoid puppet. The 9 great hidden armor also began to revolve around Su Yan. This was an unprecedented peak. Su Yan went berserk. His aura was terrifying. His eyes were like lightning as he rose from the ground. Boom! It was also at this moment that the entire great fortune bestowment fell into endless darkness. An emperor's aura that could swallow eternity bloomed, covering the entire great fortune bestowment and emitting an extremely cold, killing intent. Immortal Sky Emperor. Instantly, the face of the space-time emperor, who was depriving the emperor's origin, changed. The Xian people had an emperor who had lived for a long time and was extremely proficient in space-time. If this person lowered his face to hunt Su Yin, the consequences would be unimaginable. After all, if an emperor wanted to hunt, this was a killing move. Senior, don't worry. Su Yin has the Celestial Court's foundation to protect him. The Tao scripture instrument was very calm. The space-time emperor was in an important stage of remodeling and could not be distracted. Otherwise, he would fail. After all, once an emperor died, the emperor's origin would be greatly reduced. The space-time emperor calmed down slightly. The current Su Yin was no longer an ordinary person. Evil creature, you dare to covet my race's scripture. This was a black-robed old man. His body was small and thin, and his face was cold. His hair was snow-white, and his aura was terrifying. Both of his palms moved forward and charged towards Su Yan's flesh and blood body. Roar! Su Yan roared at the sky. His eyes were filled with madness. He wanted to see how strong an emperor was. His arms moved, and the heavenly palm exploded. An unreachable source of power instantly covered the sky, forming billions of palm prints. Everyone in the world was shocked, feeling incredulous. What was Su Yin doing? Competing with an emperor in terms of strength? Was he crazy? This was a supreme emperor who controlled the emperor's Tao law, a powerhouse who shook the world. Evil creature, you dare to fight with me. The immortal sky emperor shouted coldly. The instant his palms pressed forward, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The order of the Tao was destroyed, and the billions of palm prints trembled. However, the truth was that Su Yin had actually managed to delay the martial emperor's palm energy by a breath's worth of time. Everyone couldn't help but tremble. Just how powerful was this secret technique? Using the great Tao of the heavens to resist the immortal sky emperor for a breath's time. This made the immortal sky emperor's killing intent surge. The huge palm print blasted the 9 great hidden armors away. Even Su Yan's heavenly mysterious battle armor cracked. Puff! Su Yin coughed up blood. 2 huge palm prints appeared on his chest, almost shattering his body. This was the emperor's heavenly might. It was too strong and unparalleled. No matter how terrifying Su Yin was, he couldn't compete with an emperor. His body smashed down. The moment he fell to the ground, he was caught by the long Daesong. In fact, Su Yan's injuries weren't serious. After all, the heavenly mysterious battle armor was destroyed. Su Yan's heart ached. He wanted to give it a try, but he didn't expect to destroy a supreme treasure. Old man, you destroyed my supreme treasure. You deserve to die. Su Yan roared. You ant! The immortal sky emperor was furious. He couldn't kill Su Yin in a single move. This was a great humiliation. In an instant, his aura blazed again, and he pounced on Su Yin. Daesong attack. Kill an emperor. Kill the Xian people. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. Su Yan's legs shook violently. Killing intent surged in his eyes as he let out a heaven-shaking roar. Roar! The long Daesong stepped on the sky and roared. In an instant, he turned into a golden torrent and charged at the immortal sky emperor. 1 man and 1 horse, ferocious and domineering, charged at the immortal sky emperor. Everyone trembled and widened their eyes. Was he going to throw away his life? Or did Su Yin have some other trump card that could resist the emperor's killing blow? After all, this kind of killing situation happened too quickly. No one could come to Su Yan's rescue in a short time. The immortal sky emperor was enraged to the extreme. The power he exerted was even more peerless. In the next moment, Su Yan's eyes blazed with killing intent. The immortal iron staff swept across the sky, unleashing its strongest power as it swept forward. This broken immortal iron staff suddenly shone 1,000,000,000 times brighter. Accompanied by a world-shaking roar, it was as if an invincible overlord who had crossed the river of time had returned. This broken immortal iron staff's aura was actually terrifying beyond compare. Boom! The stars in the sky exploded. The Emperor Tao laws that were like an ocean collapsed. Su Yin swept the immortal iron staff forward. A huge divine monkey appeared behind him. It stood indomitable, and its roar echoed through 3,000 worlds. It was as if it was looking down on the river of time, dominating the reincarnation cycle of time, looking disdainfully at the past and future. Boom! An incomparably domineering power tore apart the order of space. Even the Emperor Tao laws collapsed. "It's him!" the immortal Sky Emperor cried out in horror. How could he not recognize who this was? Back then, he had caused havoc in the immortal world. He was a glorious giant comparable to the founder of the Emperor race. The iron staff swept across the sky, roaring. The heavenly monkey's magical projection appeared, propping up the great cosmos, entering the outer world, terrifying to the extreme. It carried the great iron staff, instantly smashing through boundless space, blood dripping as it smashed down on immortal Sky Emperor's skull. Chapter 2076. Master. The Monkey King lost control of his emotions and let out a loud roar. His eyes were brimming with tears. He could once again witness the domineering might of the Monkey King. The Monkey King was so excited that he couldn't control himself. His roar shook the entire world. How is this possible? King Immortal Marshal and the others were shocked. Was that monkey still alive? Was he still in the mortal world? Su Yin actually had the heavenly monkey's broken emperor weapon. This was truly unbelievable. Moreover, this broken emperor weapon contained the heavenly monkey's might and invincible strength. Roar, a heavenly monkey, majestic and imposing, towering over the immortal world, exuding a peerless might that swept across the entire immortal world and shook the long river of history. An invincible being comparable to the founder of the Emperor race. The Spacetime Emperor Capital was very excited. This was the most terrifying existence, the most invincible giant. His roar shook the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The peerless might that scattered down crushed the Emperor Tao laws and exploded. Kill! Su Yin roared and waved his iron rod. The heavenly monkey behind him also waved his iron rod and smashed it down on the immortal Sky Emperor's head. This was too domineering, wanting to kill the immortal Sky Emperor in a single move. Grandpa Heavenly Monkey, Dao Shuyi was somewhat absent-minded. The incomplete immortal iron staff had awakened, and the raging flames of battle had caused the great historical star to disintegrate. This was too terrifying and frightening. No matter how grand the Emperor Tao laws were, they could not stop it. Ah, the immortal Sky Emperor screamed. Even his emperor weapon was ignited. His strongest strength welcomed a great eruption. Boundless Emperor Tao laws surged, instantly forming a huge Dharma idol true body that wanted to compete with the heavenly monkey. But soon after, he felt fear. The tyrannical iron rod, the Dharma idol that looked down on the heavens, contained the power equal to the heavens. It swept across the entire immortal world, causing the heavens to sink. It was indescribable how strong it was. Impossible. The immortal Sky Emperor screamed in grief and indignation. No matter how strong and invincible he was directly suppressed by the bloody fist. No matter how powerful his Emperor Tao laws were, he was instantly smashed into pieces and turned into ashes. Boom! The iron cudgel smashed down, smashing into the top of the immortal Sky Emperor's head. The Emperor weapon that covered his body was also shattered in an instant. Oh my God! Countless people trembled. It was as if the staff smashed down on their bodies. Each and every one of them felt as if their liver and guts were being torn apart. They saw immortal Sky Emperor's head explode, a large crack extending from his head to his heels. Ah, the immortal Sky Emperor howled miserably. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. His entire body was smashed into two. One could imagine how much pain he was in. The monarch origin in his body was ruptured, and his life force was greatly damaged. His monarch body was collapsing, and he simply fell from the monarch throne. This was an extremely cruel scene. A monarch expert was simply blasted apart by Su Yin. The collapse of an emperor body was extremely terrifying. The entire world was covered in emperor blood, releasing woo-woo sounds. Emperor City was dyed red by blood, bloody light splashing outwards, tearing apart outer space, making even the great cosmos cry out in grief. The death of a monarch was an incomparably cruel scene. No, the immortal martial emperor and the others howled miserably. This was a monarch expert of the Xian people, and yet he fell in front of Su Yin just like that. This was a great humiliation. The experts of the Xian people went crazy. The immortal Sky Emperor was blasted apart, and his monarch body was completely destroyed. A vast ocean of energy whizzed out, rolling and wreaking havoc. This was a reversal of heaven and earth, as if the ocean of the 9 heavens was disintegrating. Boom! In an instant, Su Yin swung the broken immortal iron rod again, causing the energy that filled the sky to roll out of the city and splash into the army that was entrenched outside the city. Countless soldiers roared, and groups of veterans cried out. A large number of injured soldiers recovered, and each of them surged with essence chi. The tens of millions of soldiers entrenched outside the city had their essence chi strengthened greatly. They were terrifying, as if heavenly soldiers and generals had descended to the mortal world. At this moment, they were bathed in emperor blood and roared. This was a murderous weapon that filled the sky. They waved their flags and shouted, and their voices shook the heavens. Bestowment, bestowment, bestowment. They longed for Su Yin to be bestowed the title of emperor, and for Su Yin to obtain the emperor's mandate. Ah, a terrifying soul light erupted. It was enough to shatter an immortal king with a roar and destroy an immortal king's divine consciousness. It was like a violent giant beast was roaring. Its eyes were blood red as it charged towards Su Yin in an incomparably mournful manner. The immortal Sky Emperor was about to explode in anger. His monarch body was destroyed. This was a heavy loss, and there was almost no hope of him recovering. Moreover, Su Yin had given the leaked energy of his monarch body to the army outside the city to devour. This made the immortal Sky Emperor so angry that his primordial spirit was trembling. He unleashed his final attack and charged towards Su Yin. Su Yin retracted the broken immortal iron staff. The killing energy within it had greatly weakened. He did not want to be defeated by the immortal Sky Emperor's primordial spirit. "Give me your life, you brat." The immortal Sky Emperor shouted in grief and indignation. He knew that he would not be able to live. His primordial spirit suddenly charged forward, wanting to kill Su Yin. Suddenly, resplendent light surged from Su Yin's forehead. A slumbering small pagoda slowly awakened from its slumber. In the end, it illuminated the blood-stained imperial city and emitted 10-colored immortal light. It was as terrifying as the endless sun burning. "What's that?" The immortal king could barely open his eyes. It was so dazzling that his eyes were about to bleed. The object that rushed out of Su Yan's forehead was like a peerless war god awakening from his eternal slumber. Gradually, the universe rumbled, and 10-colored immortal light sputtered out. Soon, it formed a heavenly pagoda. Boom! The sky trembled, and the sun and moon sank. The 10-colored immortal pagoda soared through the sky, and its aura swallowed the universe. Su Yin activated it with his immortal king primordial spirit. The small pagoda's divine power was fully activated, and it scattered down billions of the strongest order laws, instantly imprisoning the immortal Sky Emperor's primordial spirit. It's you." Absolute Celestial Emperor cried out in grief. "It's you, Su Yin. It's actually you. It's actually you." Ah! Absolute Celestial Emperor cried out mournfully, his eyes red with hatred. This pagoda had once attacked the Celestial Tyrant Emperor and imprisoned him. But who would have thought that this matter was done by Su Yin? A former Daesong had once participated in the killing of the Celestial Tyrant Emperor. Who would have thought? Although the Reincarnation Emperor race had once suspected Su Yin, they didn't think that the Celestial Tyrant Emperor was killed by him. The Heavenly Power King and the others were stunned. The Celestial Tyrant Emperor's death was directly related to Su Yin. Now that he had the 10-colored immortal pagoda, it was enough to prove the blood debt of that year. "Ha, that's right, it's me," Su Yin roared. "The Cosmos Stone was also taken by me. The Reincarnation Emperor race You guys didn't expect this, right? Ha ha ha. Now, the facts have been proven. This was an extremely terrifying scene. The 10-colored pagoda soared through the sky and suppressed the immortal Sky Emperor's primordial spirit. No, immortal Sky Emperor frantically struggled. However, it was completely useless. The 9-inch tall little pagoda was even more terrifying than before. What could a trifling emperor's primordial spirit count for? As the 10-colored little pagoda rotated, immortal Sky Emperor could only despair. His primordial spirit was breaking apart inch by inch. The creatures of this world trembled. A second emperor had fallen. Immortal Sky Emperor's primordial spirit exploded. This 10-colored little pagoda's aura was terrifying beyond compare, as if it was refining the great cosmos. In that instant, the 10-colored immortal pagoda rose from the ground, as if it was the most powerful immortal pagoda that could dominate the 9 heavens, 10 earths, crushing towards the distant battlefield. Big Brother, Old Senior. The 10-colored immortal pagoda's primordial spirit was heartless. It roared, extremely stirred up. It recognized the Old Senior's origins. He could be said to be the master of the ancient celestial court master. Its imposing pagoda body smashed towards the battlefield world. Within the terrifying domain, the chaotic radiance of the heavens was released. 10 great artifacts moved through the air, attacking the emperors one after another. The battlefield became much more terrifying. The great war in the distance was intense to the extreme. There were old giants who were trembling. The prehistoric Big Brother was tyrannical beyond compare, brandishing his matchless fist imprints, divine might unstoppable. No! The old giants cried out in fear one after another. They couldn't stop their big brother's fighting strength at all. Some people's chests were penetrated. Some had half their bodies blasted apart. The 10-layered little pagoda rose and fell above the big brother's head, urging him to let go of his defenses, doing everything he could to charge into the battlefield of giants. His fist imprints were matchless, blasting the great cosmos until it exploded. Kill! The big brother's roar resounded through 3,000 realms, heroic spirit matchless. His ash-colored hair danced about chaotically, bathed in the blood of giants, going crazy. A group of fake emperors. The little pagoda roared crazily. This group of people couldn't be called giants, only fake giants. Back then, it and the mysterious skeleton got rid of Sky Tyrant Emperor, and only he could be called a true emperor. Emperor's city rumbled, the heavens descending with great good fortune. Purple light surged, the most ancient will of the immortal realm appearing, quickly forming an enormous vortex, surrounding Su Yin endlessly. He is going to become an emperor. The entire world erupted into commotion. Su Yin was going to become an emperor. What kind of title was he going to obtain? The experts of the immortal realm cried out miserably. Did the heavens have no eyes? The immortal realm was bleeding. The emperors were falling and dying. Now, they were actually bestowing the title of emperor on Su Yin. This was the general situation of history, already unable to be changed. The emperor's fate was already reshaping. Su Yin's body was blazing with heaven overflowing brilliance, the black and white energies revolving within his body resonating with the great purple vortex. It was as if he stood tall in the most powerful era of the immortal realm, standing tall in the distant past, standing tall in the great desolate lands of the immortal realm, obtaining the emperor's fate. How long? The most divine and holy aura scattered down, the entire immortal realm displaying great fortune, surging and surging, as if the immortal masters were shouting, as if the emperor was chanting sutras. Here in Emperor City, the most divine and holy aura, the bloody light that filled the sky, evaporated, sweet dew falling from the heavens, scattering down great auspicious signs. There was a true dragon lying down, an immortal phoenix spreading its wings, a Kuan Peng soaring in the sky, a black tortoise spreading the sea, auspicious signs filling the sky. indicating that an Emperor's fate expert was about to be formed. The irregular scenes became more and more shocking, making the space-time imperial capital lose color. He felt that the disturbance caused by Su Yan's title was even more shocking than when he became an emperor. Emperor's city flourished, the boundless heavens releasing auspicious multicolored light. Vast and mighty ancient worlds. This was an unimaginable change. What kind of special title was this? At the same time, in the ancestral land of the reincarnation emperor's race, the ancient cave abode where a woman in black sat glowed, chanting the great Tao reincarnation melody. At the same time, in the ancestral land of the Xian people, a man in white opened his eyes and stared at Emperor's city. At the same time, in the ancestral land of the Celestials, a man with bronze skin woke up from a deep sleep and looked at Emperor's city. The one with the immortal fate. The three experts were separated by hundreds of millions of miles. The moment their eyes met, they all frowned. There was no stopping it. The Emperor's fate had been formed. The most terrifying title of the immortal realm had arrived. To the three of them, this wasn't a simple Emperor's fate, but a kind of immortal fate. It was like the greatest Emperor's fate in the immortal realm was bestowing on Su Yan. Su Yan opened his arms, bathed in the dew of the 9 heavens, and roared into the sky. His body, bathed in great fortune, was infinitely bright, and he felt that he would become even more powerful and peerless. This was a kind of supreme baptism, as if he had severed the shackles of the great Tao, and was about to ascend to the Emperor realm. Boom! 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 One after another, huge words, blazing and terrifying, condensed the essence of billions of ancient worlds and formed by the creation of heaven and earth. With each word, the overall energy of the immortal realm sank a little. 3 big words, one after another, were branded on Su Yan's forehead. Suddenly, Su Yan turned into an invincible being. His aura swallowed billions of miles, and divine light shot to the 9 hells. His roar shook the billions of ancient worlds in the immortal realm, as if he had arrived at the top of the universe and was crowned as an emperor. Countless creatures trembled, uncontrollably prostrating themselves in worship. Even the troops of the Xian people, as long as they weren't emperors, couldn't help but worship. Suddenly, the immortal kings roared shrilly and resisted the urge to kowtow. However, the general trend couldn't be changed. This was the torrent of history, and even the immortal kings had to kneel and worship and call him emperor. An invincible young paragon had ascended to the throne, looked down on the 9 heavens and 10 lands, and announced to the world that he was immortal Emperor Zong. Chapter 2077. Billions of ancient worlds resonated, and the immortal world emitted an extremely blazing divine light that illuminated the 3 worlds. The supreme immortal might that had existed since ancient times was unleashed, crossing the river of history and heading towards this era. Billions of living beings bowed down and called out to immortal Emperor Zong. This was like a historical trend of the immortal world, and also like a title bestowed by the entire world. The vast immortal world emitted auspicious clouds that flowed against the flow to the imperial city. One by one, they fell and imprinted themselves on Su Yan's forehead. In an instant, Su Yan's head shone brilliantly and illuminated the 9 heavens and 10 lands. It was simply the birth of the first Emperor Fate. The immortal world resonated, and all living beings bowed down in worship. It was as if a terrifying contract had been completed, and the entire world respected it. It was an extremely terrifying scene. The immortal world was filled with great momentum, and the figure of the first generation seemed to have cut off the river of history. He stood at the peak of all living beings and emitted a terrifying light of glory. He turned into immortal Emperor Zong, and his might shook the immortal world. Roar! Su Yan's black hair danced wildly, and his body was divine and holy. It was as if the universe of the immortal world was blooming in his body, and it was about to evolve into the most powerful immortal world Tao fruit. It was about to give birth to an unparalleled order of the great Tao in the river of history, and bury the immortal world. The people trembled, and all living beings bowed down in worship. The entire world was trembling. Su Yin was bestowed the title of emperor, and his glory was unparalleled. Cold lightning shot out from his eyes and tore the heavens. He was like a supreme god that ruled the three worlds, and also like the celestial emperor that was born from billions of ancient worlds. He was blazing to the extreme. Some people screamed, and some people screamed. Su Yin was bestowed the title of emperor, and the title he received was a little frightening. Immortal Emperor Zong. Ominous. Among the Xian people, a man in snow-white clothes sat cross-legged in the sacred ancient cave. His hair was snow-white, and his deep eyes were staring at Su Yin. Ominous. Among the Reincarnation Emperor family, a woman in black stood in the reincarnation space-time. This was an ominous sign. This world had the title of Immortal Emperor Zong. Ominous. Among the Celestials, a tall man with bronze skin sat at the peak of the heavens, and his words were cold. Immortal Emperor Zong was going to bury the title of the immortal world? This was an ominous sign. This title had never appeared before. Now that it had happened to Su Yin, it formed an extremely terrifying fate. It caused the spiritual energy tide in the entire celestial world to drop by a lot. For a time, the celestial world seemed to be in a decline. In the ancient three, the archclans, three figures were faintly discernible. In an instant, in the vast immortal world, in the millions and millions of ancient worlds, the experts of the various imperial clans who were about to leave their sects were preparing to summon the entire world, calling for their old friends to come to Emperor City and ask them to stop fighting. If they continued fighting, the foundation of the immortal world would be greatly damaged. Even now, the Dark World was eyeing them covetously. The 10 major battlefields were in a state of emergency, and the immortal demon battlefield was reopened. The immortal world was about to usher in the worst era. How similar was history? Back then, when the master of the celestial court attacked the celestial realm, all the monarch clans of the celestial realm moved. But now, the faint shadows of the arch clans made the experts of the various arch clans sigh. They couldn't do anything about the clans that had returned at the same time, nor could they help. If one were to ask who the master of the immortal world was, then it would definitely be the 3 emperor clans that had joined hands. The arch clans were about to move out together. A great calamity was already approaching. The war in Emperor City was still continuing, but this time it was even more intense. Long Daesong roared as he charged out, carrying immortal Emperor Zong on his back, overlooking the world. Ju Celestial Emperor sensed a great danger approaching. His expression changed. Su Yin, who was charging over, was extremely powerful. The imprint between his brows shone, triggering the vast universe's laws of order. Millions and millions of them fell. Spiritual Emperor wasn't some weakling. Now that Su Yin had interfered, Ju Celestial Emperor was drowned out by the laws of the world. He suffered a terrifying suppression, his mouth and nose bleeding. Bastard. Ju Celestial Emperor's eyes were blood red. His vertical eye sputtered with the light of reincarnation calamity. A small Su Yin actually had the qualifications to participate in the Great War of the Monarchs. Who would have thought that Su Yin would face such a day? Kill! Su Yin roared. The sea of laws of the immortal world resonated with him, forming millions and millions of palm imprints as if it was about to destroy the world. This was the heavenly fate palm, operating the immortal world's Emperor Dao laws, attacking Ju Celestial Emperor. Roar! Ju Tiandi let out a shrill cry. He tried to resist Su Yin with his Emperor horoscope, but to his surprise, his Emperor horoscope title dimmed as soon as he clashed with Su Yin. He couldn't unleash any of his abilities. How is this possible? Ju Celestial Emperor trembled, roaring madly. Who was the Emperor race of the immortal world? Were the eyes of the heavens blind? His Emperor Fate was restrained, unable to block Su Yin's Emperor Fate title. Moreover, the laws of the world surged madly, forming millions and millions of palm imprints, suppressing Ju Celestial Emperor until his body trembled, his natal emperor origin leaking out. Zhu Celestial Emperor couldn't just sit there and wait for death. He unleashed his reincarnation lineage's great divine ability to resist the extreme danger. His sword, Su Yin, took out the immortal slaying sword, shocking spirit sovereign emperor. This was the sword ancestor's supreme treasure, a hegemon on par with the founders of the emperor races. The immortal slaying sword burned fiercely, spewing out sword rays capable of slaughtering millions and millions of immortals. A dust-covered emperor weapon was awakened, accompanied by torrential sword rays and endless visions of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. One sword severing an epic. Su Yin attacked with the immortal slaying sword. This golden sword core had once drunk the blood of millions and millions of lives, causing the primordial spirits of emperors to tremble. When this sword fully awakened, the river of epics opened. Its terror was indescribable, as if it wanted to destroy the sea of stars and the multiverse. An epic sea of swords pressed down on Zhu Celestial Emperor's body, causing him to roar madly. Because his body was aging, it was as if an epic had passed in an instant. He was madly struggling within. The sea of swords filled the sky. Time filled the sky, eradicating epics and severing time. A supreme trump card erupted, containing supreme profundities, terrifying enough to tear apart the Emperor Dao laws around Zhu Celestial Emperor's body, wanting to kill his true body. In a short period of time, Zhu Celestial Emperor went mad, his aura berserk, his natal emperor source ignited, deriving the heaven-opening reincarnation scripture. He opened a path in the river of epics, wanting to kill his way out. You can't escape suppress. Long Daesong rushed over, one man and one mount dominating the world. Su Yin grasped the emperor's fate. Although he was not an emperor, he could erupt with a series of great divine abilities. Heaven-transferring palm, one sword severing an epic. He had just encountered Zhu Celestial Emperor, but he had already used these two trump cards. One could see the danger Zhu Celestial Emperor was in, not to mention there was still Spirit Sovereign Emperor on the side. Brat, you dare to ride on an emperor's head. You are not worthy of being an emperor. Zhu Celestial Emperor roared. Seeing Su Yin attacking him with both palms, his eyes narrowed, his large hands rising to meet the attack. In a flash, Su Yin's aura became boundlessly terrifying. His figure became even more majestic, emitting an aura that caused all living beings to tremble. It was as if he had turned into a supreme emperor, as if he had turned into a monarch at the apex. This kind of boundless ferocious might cause the sky to tremble, the great Tao to collapse, the river of history to disintegrate. Emperor suppressing art. Su Yan's palms were filled with boundless power, and an extremely profound heavenly law appeared and struck Zhu Tiandi's palms. In an instant, Zhu Tiandi's arms shattered, and the irresistible emperor suppression art suppressed his body. In a short period of time, Zhu Celestial Emperor's body froze, as if returning to a state of silence. Spirit Sovereign Emperor felt his hair stand on end. What kind of secret art was this? It could even suppress an emperor. Even the emperor's Tao laws could be suppressed for a short period of time. Even Zhu Celestial Emperor's fate was suppressed. This was a bit inconceivable. Whose supreme divine ability was this inherited from? Chi. The golden sword core swept across. A terrifying head flew up, emperor's blood filling the sky, burning heaven and earth. Zhu Celestial Emperor's head was chopped off. His body was struck by Long Daesong's large claw until a large crack appeared. In short, one man and one mount dominated heaven and earth, participating in the Emperor Realm battlefield, a vicious aura suppressing through the ages, Emperor techniques suppressing the past, present, and future. Zhu Celestial Emperor is dead. Everyone trembled. Zhu Celestial Emperor's head was chopped off by Su Yin. His sword slashed the heavens, the golden sword core blazing and terrifying, instantly cleaving apart the head. Even his primordial spirit was cut apart, Su Yan's roar shook heaven and earth. He split the sky and fought. The emperor's suppressing art collapsing his primordial spirit, using the stealing heaven art to seize the heaven-opening reincarnation scripture. Crazy. Everyone in the world was trembling. The third emperor was withering away, indicating great terror. Immortal martial emperor and domain suppressing emperor trembled. The instant the two great experts screamed, they fled towards the distant world. Boom! In an instant, a hand stretched out, boundless and boundless. Space-time emperor's hand looked somewhat unimaginable, following the flow of time, following the space-time, as if passing through the past and future, endlessly covering immortal martial emperor's body. Space-time emperor. Immortal martial emperor's eyes trembled, seeing a heroic man, no longer old, no longer declining. Like a divine pillar, his divine might unparalleled. He had recovered, standing in the golden age, bathed in the emperor origin, recovering his emperor body, the terrifying hand suppressing immortal martial emperor. The middle three realms' heavenly river condensed together, turning into a prison formed by time and space, suppressing an emperor. Space-time emperor. Monkey King and the others were shocked. The space-time emperor at his peak, just how strong was he? Dao Shi was not surprised. Space-time emperor was a true emperor. Even without the emperor's mandate, he was a peerless war god who condensed an emperor body. Space-time emperor's hand pressed down on the river of time. Immortal martial emperor looked a little short. Immortal martial emperor screamed. His body was cracking. He knew very well that it was very difficult for him to stop Space-time emperor. Otherwise, how could Space-time emperor be qualified to talk to the Xian people's third ancestor? This was no longer the aging Space-time emperor. He was standing in his prime. Kill! Space-time emperor roared, his left hand holding time, and his right hand holding time. Both palms struck forward, one hand restraining immortal martial emperor, while the other hand temporarily imprisoned domain suppression emperor. The domain suppression emperor had fallen. A primordial bamboo smashed down and shattered his body into pieces, scattering everywhere. Fight! Don't hold back anymore. Kill! Kill this group of traitors, kill! The emperor's roar came from afar. The group of old monsters blocked by Big Brother Prehistoric all went crazy, their roars shaking the heavens, destroying the outer world. Kill! One after another, terrifying creatures burned fiercely. The process was shocking. The Emperor's mandate completely appeared one after another, simply sweeping across the immortal world in an instant, erupting with the most terrifying power. It actually reached this step. The great Emperor's ancestral courts all sighed. After activating the Emperor's mandate, their battle prowess rose by a level. In a short period of time, almost 100,000 ancient worlds withered, their essence drained clean. The ancestral lands of the great clans all collapsed. Roars sounded everywhere. This was a disaster caused by giants. Did they really think that once they became emperor and obtained the emperor's mandate, they could activate it at will? Once this was done, the immortal world's environment would greatly decrease. The 100,000 ancient worlds would evaporate the essence of heaven and earth, tilting away from all the great Tao order. The 100,000 ancient worlds would be crippled, reduced to a land of death, reduced to a wasteland. The price was too heavy, but in the end, what was laughable was that this matter was only caused by a mere young emperor, a bloody battle between giants, causing damage to the immortal world. Kill! A group of terrifying creatures roared. The scene formed in a short period of time, shocking the heavens and earth. Ghosts and gods weeping. Millions and millions of li of outer world exploding, forming a magnificent scene, distant and unreachable, already affecting the boundless outer space. The situation shook the immortal world. The immortal kings trembled. The great success immortal kings were about to collapse. Boom! The heavens exploded. The sun and moon sank. The world was heading toward destruction. The 100,000 ancient worlds collapsing. The supreme killing order formed, covering the sky and covering the earth as it smashed towards the prehistoric Big Brother's body. The big brother faced the sky and roared, suddenly using the stealing heaven technique to steal the immortal world's source energy. Even facing this kind of formation, only his main body could charge over. Only then would he be able to break through this situation. Little pagoda shone, the already 10-story little pagoda suspended above the big brother's body. The two powerful auras resonated, forming an absolute defense, blocking this group of crazy old monsters. Sigh. Within the reincarnation imperial family, the black-clothed woman walked out from the reincarnation cave, her white hand waving. A golden heavenly eye flew out from the ancestral land. Go! She bent a finger. The golden heavenly eye disappeared with a rumble, suddenly separated by a long period of time, separated by a great distance, almost instantly arriving, about to kill the big brother. Chapter 2078. A golden vertical eye spewed out endless celestial radiance. The billions of ancient worlds in the celestial world seemed to have been illuminated. All matter in this world was stripped of their radiance, appearing extremely dark and gloomy. It was as if the master of reincarnation, who had been sleeping in the primal chaos, had reincarnated and returned. 1. The golden vertical eye seemed to represent the heavens. When it opened the cycle of life and death, and the afterimages of ancient universes sputtered out. The celestial kings who saw it felt as if they had fallen into a bottomless abyss. For a short period of time, they lost control of their minds, and their bodies were aging. It was as if their lifespan had been stripped away, and they almost died. A group of experts trembled and cried out. Their vitality was about to be severed, and their Tao fruits were about to be cut off. Fortunately, the golden vertical eye wasn't deliberately targeting them, and flew away in an instant. Otherwise, if they continued to watch, they might encounter a great calamity. The group of old experts who were affected gradually recovered from their trembling. It was as if they had returned from another universe to the celestial world. However, they felt that this world was somewhat unfamiliar, and this made them tremble. What kind of power was that? It affected the environment of the celestial world. It was like the eye of a celestial emperor, vast and boundless, and seething with the light of an ancient emperor that filled the sky. One after another, big shots walked out from it and looked down on the celestial world. What's that? Su Yan's expression changed. Even his powerful mind almost lost control. Who was activating the reincarnation heavenly eye, shooting out the light of an ancient emperor that filled the sky. It was so terrifying that it caused the vast world to distort, and was about to make the celestial world fall into the cycle of life and death, affecting the environment of the celestial world. With the golden heavenly eye as the core, the area was distorted into a space-time vortex. Celestial kings would die upon contact, and even emperors would feel a chill down their spines. It was as if the legendary 6 paths of reincarnation had opened, summoning all living beings into reincarnation. Boom! The golden heavenly eye charged over. The heavens fell, and the great path disintegrated. It was so terrifying that it could be called the end of the world. The 10-colored celestial pagoda rumbled and trembled. The pagoda felt like it was about to collapse and was shaking unsteadily. Supreme true treasure. It's a supreme true treasure. Small pagoda roared. This treasure was too terrifying. There were only a few of them in the entire celestial court. Now, an expert was moving a supreme true treasure to kill them. Supreme true treasure. What kind of being refined this treasure? Su Yin turned pale with fright. Something that could be called a supreme true treasure was definitely the strongest weapon in the celestial world. The space-time emperor's 3 realms galaxy was known as the strongest treasure. However, the reincarnation imperial clan's reincarnation heavenly eyes were the strongest treasure. They were the pinnacle of weapons. This is bad, the spiritual sovereign emperor exclaimed. One of the 3 supreme treasures of the immortal world is actually here. Has the founder of the reincarnation emperor race come out of seclusion? Senior, what is a supreme true treasure? Su Yan's expression changed drastically. There was a turning point in the battle, but the three Thearch clans wouldn't let them escape unscathed. The Thearchs were dying one after another. The Cien people and the other factions had brought out their ultimate trump cards. Your immortal execution sword, the spiritual sovereign emperor commented. It's a supreme, true treasure forged by the sword ancestor. It's the same as the space-time emperor's three realms galaxy. In the entire celestial world, there are no more than 100 supreme, true treasures. At most, there are a few dozen supreme, true treasures. Su Yan's heart trembled. It was so rare. No wonder the Thunder Immortal Emperor shamelessly seized the great immortal elder's inheritance. What he wanted was the supreme, true treasure. Even the Thunder Immortal Emperor's world-extinguishing Thunderhammer couldn't be called the supreme, true treasure. If the Thearchs are divided into ranks, the Immortal Martial Emperors can only be called ordinary Thearchs. Your master, the Space-Time Emperor, can be called a Pinnacle Thearch. The spiritual sovereign emperor sighed and said, I have cultivated for a long time, but I can't be called a Pinnacle Thearch. However, a Pinnacle Thearch is not qualified to forge supreme, true treasures. Only the strongest Thearch is qualified to forge supreme, true treasures. The strongest Thearch? Su Yan's eyes widened. The space-time emperor couldn't be called the strongest Thearch. What was the strongest? The sword ancestor was the strongest Thearch. He founded a supreme sect and was ranked as the most terrifying giant in the human world. This was enough to show the prosperity of the human world and the terror of the bury the heavens. This kind of existence was already at the peak of the immortal world. He was called the strongest Thearch. The Three Realms Celestial River is the supreme, true treasure. The main reason is that the materials your master used to forge the Three Realms Celestial River were quite extraordinary. Back then, he worked together with a group of Thearchs to forge the supreme, true treasure. Also, your master was very powerful when he was young. He could be called an invincible existence under the strongest Thearch. Invincible under the strongest Thearch. Su Yan's heart was surging with emotions. He looked at the heroic space-time emperor. There was no sign of aging at all. He was extremely powerful and was close to the strongest Thearch. No wonder he could suppress the immortal martial emperors. Then, Su Yan's face turned gloomy. He said, Senior, do you mean that the Cien people have an existence that surpasses the strongest Thearch? What kind of domain was that? It was simply unimaginable, inconceivable. Could it be that this was an existence that could compete with the master of the celestial court? No. The spirit emperor's face was heavy. He shook his head, but then he frowned and said, I don't know. You can say that I don't know at all. The immortal clan has the strongest emperor. There's no doubt about that. The elder brother from your clan is definitely the strongest emperor in the world. But elder brother isn't fighting with his true body. Su Yan's blood was boiling. Prehistoric Big Brother's original body was the strongest Thearch. He was comparable to the Thearch who created the glory of the Thearch race. This was too powerful. Big Brother was one of the most terrifying giants of the Celestial Court. He suppressed a group of Thearchs with only one law, and they couldn't get close to the Imperial City to participate in the battle. Otherwise, without prehistoric Big Brother's obstruction, how could they kill Thunder Immortal Emperor and the other experts? No wonder Big Brother was so terrifying. He was one of the most invincible Thearchs at that time. How do you explain the supreme, true treasure? Su Yan didn't understand. The situation in front of Big Brother was a bit fierce. The Thearch's killing order filled the sky. With the release of the reincarnation Heavenly Eye, the battle was approaching a terrifying level. Legend has it that this is related to the origin of the celestial world. Spiritual Thearch whispered, I don't know how this kind of true treasure was formed. Now they are in big trouble. They have used their supreme, true treasures and are about to engage in a world-destroying battle. This is really bad. It was really a world-destroying battle. The 100,000 ancient worlds had exploded, and the world was full of cracks. Small Pagoda was trembling. It couldn't hold on any longer. The light of Thearka's reincarnation emerged from the golden vertical eye. It was as if they had turned into one invincible creature after another, and they were about to kill prehistoric Big Brother. Roar! The golden figure was burning fiercely. It was just a law, but it was like a real primitive battle body. At the moment of burning fiercely, the sky behind Big Brother was lying horizontally. Although it was a bit blurry and mysterious, it contained the power to sweep away everything. When this power was used to the extreme, it was as if there was an ancient celestial emperor standing behind Big Brother. It was so majestic that it made the long river of history roar and made the light of the arch disintegrate. How is this possible? This senior skill is so great. It's actually so terrifying. Spiritual the arch couldn't believe it. What kind of supreme technique was this? Could it be the Thearka's divine ability from the master of the celestial court? It was known as the celestial emperor's unique inheritance. Boom! The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The terrifying aura overflowed into the sky. The sky was crying blood. Thearka's blood filled the sky. It was as if all the worlds had appeared, and it swept away everything. It wiped out the light of Thearka's from the reincarnation heavenly eye, and it swept away a group of crazy old monsters. They only felt that there was a celestial emperor standing in the long river of history outside the sky, and it was suppressing them. Everyone in the world was frightened. They couldn't believe it. What kind of power was this? Kill! Prehistoric Big Brother roared. He was like a supreme demon that was about to slaughter the heavens. He carried the killing order of the supreme, true treasure, and his roar made a group of old giants tremble. One of the old giants even exploded. Crazy! Everyone in the world cried out in alarm. Big Brother went crazy, and he used all of his trump cards. It was as if he was among all living things. The instant his figure merged with the ancient celestial emperors, it was as if his roar shattered the long river of history, and he was going to transcend the three realms. An old giant from the celestial race was roared to death. This was too shocking. The starry sky emperor who withdrew before was sweating profusely. Absolute celestial emperor and the others had all fallen. If he didn't leave now, he might be killed as well. Scoundrel! In an instant, the black-clothed woman standing in the ancestral land of reincarnation was furious. A vertical eye opened between her brows, and a beam of divine light shot out. After doing all of this, her aura was greatly damaged, but the strongest law she shot out penetrated the golden vertical eye. In an instant, this golden vertical eye became a lot stronger, and a shadow that could shake the long river of history appeared vaguely. It was like a real vertical eye. When it opened and closed, it was indistinct, and all the worlds were vaguely distorted. A terrifying suppressive power engulfed prehistoric Big Brother. You all leave first. Big Brother was cold and powerful. His words were transmitted to the imperial city, telling them to leave first. He raised his hand and sent small pagoda flying back to the imperial city. He used his strongest power to block the heavenly eye of reincarnation and blocked a group of old monsters from the various races who were closing in again. Big Brother was just dying. If he died, so be it. It was nothing. No one can leave. In the ancestral land of the Cien people, a man in a robe whiter than snow seemed to stand at the peak of the celestial world. He raised his hand and threw out a huge seal. It also arrived in an instant, cutting through billions of ancient worlds and rushing toward the imperial city. Not good. It's the immortal emperor's seal. The spirit emperor's expression changed greatly. The old dragon shouted, "Old brother, leave quickly." The space-time emperor was still grinding away the celestial martial emperor. He was using space-time to draw the power of the celestial river of the three realms to kill the celestial martial emperor. Currently, the celestial martial emperor was struggling at death's door. He was extremely close to death. His body was beginning to break, and he was about to fall to his death. In an instant, the sky above the imperial city exploded. A huge golden seal suddenly descended. It was as if the golden age of the celestial world was pressing down. It was said to be able to grind emperors and kill the strongest emperors. The ultimate treasure of the Cien people, known as the Celestial Emperor's Seal, was a supreme treasure. Celestial Martial Seal. The space-time Emperor's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He sensed great danger. His hand suddenly rose, and the three heavenly rivers revolved around his arm. His aura instantly became much more terrifying. The three rivers intertwined in the space-time Emperor's palm, resisting the Celestial Emperor's Seal. Boom! The Golden Seal's power was boundless. It was enough to grind away all things in the world and crush emperors. The space-time Emperor's hand trembled, and the three heavenly rivers rumbled. This was an extremely terrifying power seeping in. It broke through time and space, and pressed down on the space-time Emperor's body. The space-time Emperor roared in anger. His flesh and blood burned, and his hair danced wildly. If he wasn't standing in the Golden Age, he would have been killed in one move. His blood-stained palm and the three heavenly rivers flowed with an aura that could cut through the river of history, blocking the Celestial Emperor's Seal. Stop struggling. None of you will be able to escape. The third forefather of the Cien people sat cross-legged in the ancestral land of the Cien people. He said coldly, "The space-time Emperor knows that you are ignorant. Surrender now, and there is still a way out. If you continue to be stubborn, you will all die. Death is nothing." The space-time Emperor laughed hysterically. His body resisted the suppression of the Celestial Martial Seal. He growled, "You can join forces with the Dark World to attack the human world. The Celestial World is no longer the Celestial World of the past. Our deaths are enough to warn the world. They're doing it on purpose to cause internal strife in the Celestial World. Remember, don't be blinded by villains." Third Ancestor's words came from a long distance away. They were filled with righteous indignation, echoing through Emperor City. However, as soon as these words appeared, Dao Shui said angrily, "Who is the lowly one here? Watch your mouth." Boom! Suddenly, the sky above the Imperial City was torn apart. Two pairs of cold eyes appeared, staring at Dao Shui. However, fear flashed in his eyes. He didn't say anything, but the Celestial Emperor's Seal was even stronger. It charged toward the space-time Emperor. "Go!" Dao Shui waved his hand. A string of ornaments flew out from his snow-white wrist. The ornaments were very special. They looked like children's toys. There was a beast tooth, a crystal ball, a wooden saber, a kite, a cloth tiger, and a small wooden horse. One after another, each of the toys looked crystal clear. They were clearly children's toys. They were woven into a bracelet and suddenly charged toward the Celestial Emperor's Seal. "What is that?" Tai Baokai was stunned. Everyone was stunned. This string of seemingly ridiculous toys was woven into a bracelet and soared into the sky to collide with the Celestial Emperor's Seal. Old San Long wiped off his cold sweat. Could this woman be a direct descendant of the Celestial Court's master? Because everything had changed. A crystal-clear beast tooth shone brightly, tearing through the stars. It turned into a peerless divine beast-killing sword, sputtering out a grand sword aura. A seemingly small crystal ball suddenly began to rotate with a violent aura. It was like a great historical star rotating, affecting the past and the future. A peachwood saber turned into a golden heaven-slashing saber. It was like a saber that could slay immortals. It was snow-white and monstrous, as if it could cut down the Emperor's fate. A kite flew in the wind and turned into a huge koan pong. It soared into the sky and filled the space beyond the sky. The little cloth tiger roared into the sky and turned into a real flesh and blood creature. Its roar shook the heavens and 10 earths, shaking the stars in the sky. A small wooden horse was as red as blood. As it galloped forward, it suddenly transformed into a heavenly horse. It burned with the flames of the 9 heavens, as if it was the mount of a celestial emperor. Auspicious multicolored light filled the sky, as if an ancient celestial emperor was on an expedition. The 6 toys welcomed a violent explosion. They weaved together as if they were showing the past, present, and future, and forcibly resisted the Celestial Emperor's seal. Su Yin and the others were stunned. This was a bit ridiculous. Was a rich third generation. Xiao Di was not even worthy to carry his shoes. Perhaps they were toys that the Celestial Court's master had made for her. However, they contained supreme, profound laws and could be turned into great weapons to fight against strong enemies. They directly blocked the Celestial Emperor's seal. I advise you to stop. Dao Shi stood with his hands behind his back and shouted, "Otherwise, when the Celestial Court's army returns, we will trample the 3 Emperor clans and take over the entire Celestial world." Chapter 2079. In the Xian people's ancestral land, the third ancestor's expression was bone-chillingly cold. He clenched his fists. He also didn't believe that the immortal world army that had entered the burial Emperor Vile Earth could really return. The space-time emperor shook his head and smiled bitterly. What kind of existence was the master of the Celestial Court? It wasn't that the Dao Shi's toys were powerful. In fact, these toys were refined by a great existence and were tainted with his aura. They contained some of his Dao and techniques, although they were incomplete. But once the divine power was used, they were really amazing. They blocked the immortal emperor's seal on behalf of the space-time emperor. Boom! The 2 treasures collided, causing the outer verse to collapse and causing a terrifying collision. The Dao Shuyi chanted sutras, and the 6 treasures rotated one after another. The immortal emperor's seal was forcefully sent into the outer verse, temporarily resolving the current crisis. The space-time emperor's eyes flashed coldly as he stared at the immortal emperor. The immortal emperor was covered in wounds and couldn't stand up. He screamed, "Space-time emperor, are you really going to defect and leave the immortal world? Betray the immortal world?" The immortal emperor still couldn't believe that they would choose to leave and betray the immortal world. After all, once they left, the army stationed outside the city would also leave. At that time, the blow to the immortal world would be too heavy. After all, these soldiers were veterans of the immortal world. Once they left, the consequences would be unimaginable. Immortal world, haha, is this still the immortal world? The space-time emperor smiled with indescribable sadness. He then sighed. It's no longer worth our protection. What happens to the immortal world in the future has nothing to do with me. As for you, whether you sit with the dark world in the future or not, it has nothing to do with me. The space-time emperor's figure was tall and stood in his golden years. He was once willing to give up everything for the immortal world. His lifelong wish was to destroy the dark world. This was his wish, his dream, and his ambition. But now, the immortal world was no longer the immortal world in his heart. Boom! In an instant, the space-time emperor's essence, energy, and spirit completely changed. He lifted a foot and suddenly stomped on the immortal emperor. Ah! The immortal martial emperor cried out miserably. A dignified emperor was being stepped on. It was truly a tragic sight. After all, he was the current emperor of the Xian people. Although he was only an ordinary emperor and couldn't be considered a pinnacle emperor, his body had been crushed by the space-time emperor. His primordial spirit had been destroyed, and he no longer existed. The third patriarch of the Xian people was furious, but he could not leave the Xian people. He was worried that there were other people from the Celestial Court entrenched in the immortal world. Once these people made a move on their ancestral land, the consequences would be unimaginable. After all, the supreme true treasures had already been used, and the foundation of the guardian clans had already been reduced. If they left their families and were cut off by the Celestial Court, that would be terrible. The space-time emperor and the others were ultimately different from Su Yin and the others. They had a blood feud with each other, so they would definitely use any destructive means to attack their ancestral lands. Therefore, in order to prevent a tragedy from happening, they had to stay in their clans. Let's go. Dao Shi waved his hand. They really couldn't stay here any longer. The 3 emperor clans didn't know how many people they had. If they delayed any longer, the 3 emperor clans' experts would definitely attack. Big Brother couldn't hold on any longer. His Dharma idol was infinitely dim and was about to shatter completely. Once the experts from the outside world attacked, it would be difficult to leave. In fact, There was only one way to enter the celestial city. Otherwise, the danger this time would be even greater. Go! The old azure dragon roared. His huge dragon claws glowed, and the army outside the city was teleported over. The soldiers in the sky roared. It was time to leave. It was very sudden, but they were prepared. They knew very well that no one could stay. Once they did, death would be waiting for them. The heavenly dragon lady's eyes were red. She bid farewell to the Sky Force King. She didn't know if they would meet again in the future. If you leave, what's the point of me staying? I'll leave too. It won't end well if I stay. The Sky Force King struggled and hesitated for a while. He gritted his teeth and prepared to leave. The celestial realm was too terrible. This time, he saw the ugly faces of the Emperor clans. He didn't want to stay. If he really stayed, he would be killed. The Sky Dipper King and the others also chose to leave. At this time, the storm in the celestial city was a bit scary. Once this group of people left, the celestial realm would suffer an even greater blow. After all, 3 emperors left and tens of millions of battle-hardened soldiers. Leave? Do you think you can leave? A bunch of traitors. An old monster screamed. His eyes were blood red. He roared, "Traitors, a bunch of traitors." The immortal demon battlefield had reopened. Once the Sky Force King and the others left, what could the celestial realm use to stop them? At that time, only one princess would appear. It was very likely that they would lose miserably. At that time, the celestial realm would welcome a bitter era. "We're not traitors," an old soldier said angrily. "You treated Su Yin and the Space-Time Emperor like this. You didn't even explain why the human realm was destroyed. Who dares to stay here? Are we all pawns? Even if we're pawns, we still have the right to know. We can fight to the death for the celestial realm, but we won't allow you to harm the war god Imperial Prince." There are also people who cried out in grief and indignation. "You're too much of a bully. There are some things that you didn't explain clearly, not even a word. This place is not worth protecting, not worth it." The soldiers in the sky roared. Most of them were old soldiers who had experienced hundreds of battles. They fought valiantly on the battlefield, laying down their heads and spilling their blood. They had all climbed out from piles of corpses, but in the end, they were directly labeled as traitors. They really didn't want to keep silent. They would rather die on the battlefield than stay in the celestial realm and be killed by them. "Ha ha ha, leave, all of you leave," an old monster said sinisterly. "You have families, wives, and children. If one of you leaves, your entire clan will die." These were extremely cruel words that resounded through the entire Emperor's city, reverberating in the ears of the countless soldiers. Countless soldiers' eyes were about to split open, blood flowing from their eyes. "You all are." One by one, they cried out miserably. Their eyes were blood red, and their bodies trembled as they cried out in grief and indignation. How did they dare to do this? They wanted to wipe out an entire clan to vent their anger. "If you stay, you can still live, you can still make up for your crimes," an emperor said coldly. "Otherwise, all of you traitors won't have a good ending." Phoenix King cried out. Flames burned in his eyes as he stared at the immortal Phoenix army. He trembled as he said, "I harmed all of you, it was me." He was coughing out blood, his face ashen white, his heart pained. This blow was too heavy, and he couldn't take it. His body was on the verge of collapsing. Day after day, the huge changes in Emperor City and the unimaginable storm struck Phoenix King until his face turned old and he trembled continuously. "Phoenix King, this has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you." Countless soldiers felt rage and despair. They all had families, wives, and children, and they also had their own clans. But what they didn't expect was that these people were so crazy that they wanted to wipe out their entire clan. "I am sorry, I didn't think it through." Dao Shuyi's face was filled with apology. Her fists were clenched tightly, and she was extremely furious. She didn't think about all this. She also didn't expect that Su Yin would have so many people who respected him after coming to Celestial World. These tens of millions of soldiers would charge to Emperor City to support him. Billions of lives were involved. Old Azure Dragon and Time Space Emperor were furious. Although they didn't have children or clans, these soldiers were all meritorious people in Celestial World. Even if they didn't leave and stayed, they would still die, and their clans would be labeled as traitors. Suyin was filled with rage. They went too far. The Celestial World Emperor race went too far. They couldn't leave. They couldn't stay either. Once they left, all the clans related to Su Yin would die. It was an extremely cruel ending. Many soldiers were crying, driven mad by them. They couldn't imagine that they would become traitors at this moment. Spirit Emperor sighed. Before he came, he had a feeling that this wouldn't be easy. He told his clansmen to hide to prevent the Xian people from doing the same thing. This was the race camp. It was too cruel and they had to face it. Fairy, you don't have to blame yourself. Phoenix King sighed. He suppressed the rage in his heart and said, I didn't expect things to reach such a stage. I was forced into a corner by them. Who would have thought that a young emperor would cause a series of disasters? Prehistoric Big Brother couldn't take it anymore. One after another, old monsters' faces turned cold. They had to pay the price for standing on the wrong side. Since things had reached such a stage, so what if they wiped out 10,000 clans? They could wipe out a city, wipe out all the living beings in the ancient world, but they definitely wouldn't allow the traitors' clans to live. Celestial World needed to be cleansed, or else they would rebel. If you redeem yourself, you can live. A martial emperor said coldly, Su Yin, as long as you stay, the martial emperor clan can forgive everyone else of any crime. However, as long as you leave the immortal world, everyone related to you will be exterminated. And you Monkey King, an emperor pointed at him and said coldly, is your clan really going to be wiped out? Boom! Su Yan's anger burned fiercely. Killing intent surged in his eyes. He was so angry that the immortal iron rod in his hand rumbled. Su Yan, leave. The celestial Monkey King let out an earth-shattering roar and said in a mournful voice, don't listen to their nonsense. Even if you stay, we won't have a good ending. If you become successful in the future, come back and avenge us. Don't talk big. The experts coming from all directions sneered. Su Yin, as long as you stay, everything can be discussed. If you leave, everyone will die. I don't want to repeat this. Su Yan, leave. They've gone crazy. The soldiers in the sky shouted. They could live and die together, but they hoped that Su Yan would leave. They had come willingly to this battle. They would not blame Su Yan in their hearts. They were not afraid of death. However, in the end, they were bitterly disappointed that the D clan would use such cruel methods to deal with them. They wanted to slaughter their wives and children. Are the emperor clans of the celestial world all dead? Su Yin let out an earth-shattering roar. Is this the celestial world? Only the 3 emperor clans are the true masters. You're just a bunch of assholes. How can this be called the celestial world? He was a peerless, titled expert, and his emperor's fate runes filled the sky. His words resonated and swept across the vast space, causing a huge commotion. The emperor clans were still silent. It wasn't that they were spineless, but that the 3 emperor clans were too powerful. Once they joined forces, no one could stop them. This was the celestial world, not the human world, nor the dark world. In the celestial world, the 3 emperor clans were truly invincible. Otherwise, they wouldn't have survived the tyrannical methods of the celestial courtmaster. These clans had truly invincible foundations. Su Yan, look who this is. An expert from the celestial race stood out. He was a great success immortal king, and he held 2 women in his hands. Mu Xian's eyes were red, and tears rolled down her cheeks. Little Mu Xian. The Phoenix King trembled and coughed up blood. She pointed at Mu Xian and was furious. This was her granddaughter, her only relative, and she was suppressed by the celestial race. The Grand Saintess was also suppressed. The celestial race's great success, Immortal King, said coldly, I should call you Immortal Emperor Zong. You shouldn't have left. Since you're already an emperor of the celestial world, stay. Otherwise, the moment you leave, they'll be the first to die with you. Tian Huayuan, you're shameless. Yi Linyan screamed. Tian Huayuan of the celestial race was his friend. This isn't shameless. This is what I had to do, Tian Huayuan said coldly. This is no longer a personal grudge. They left after fighting. What do they think the emperor clans of the celestial world are? Tian Huiyuan's hands grabbed the Phoenix King and the Grand Saintess, causing the two women to tremble and their throats to break. Ah, the Phoenix King screamed. The blood in her body surged. The corners of her eyes were cracked, and tears of blood flowed. Grandpa, leave quickly. Don't worry about your granddaughter. I miss my father, Mu Xian screamed with red eyes. The little girl with silver hair that reached her waist smiled through her tears. She didn't expect to be a burden. They had thought of all this long ago. Otherwise, they wouldn't have suppressed Mu Xian. Suyin clenched his fists. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. The entire sky was shaking. He looked at the Phoenix King and then at Bamboo Moon. Don't do anything stupid. You can't win against them. Bamboo Moon cried. She had a deep relationship with Mu Xian, but Su Yin couldn't win against these emperor clans. Leave quickly. The Phoenix King screamed. Tears of blood flowed from her eyes. She growled like a beast. Su Yin, leave this place and avenge us in the future. A black jar appeared in Su Yan's hand. Determination flashed in his eyes. Even if there's a glimmer of hope, I won't give up. Su Yin, don't do anything stupid. The Monkey King shouted, with your potential, you can reach the God realm at most in 10,000 years. Don't do anything stupid. We did everything willingly. Don't blame yourself or feel guilty. Leave the celestial world and find your path to invincibility. We haven't lost yet. Su Yin roared and the black jar in his hand rumbled. Layers of cracks started to appear and it was about to explode. Boom! This jar directly exploded, causing the entire sky to disintegrate along with it. Boom! In the next moment, a terrifying aura howled, shaking the heavens and the earth. It swept through the entire river of time and space. Uft! In the outside world, a group of old monsters were terrified. What was sealed in that jar? As for Tian Huiyuan, his legs suddenly bent. He couldn't withstand it at all and knelt on the ground. His body trembled, and he felt that his body was about to explode into pieces. His body and soul were destroyed. A majestic figure appeared. His aura pierced through the past, present, and future, causing the great Tao of heaven and earth to kneel down. The entire celestial world seemed to have entered a state of eternal silence. A celestial emperor stepped out. His majesty that looked down on the heavens made the group of emperors suddenly disintegrate. Chapter 2080. That's not good. In the three emperor clans, three figures raised their heads at the same time, looking in the direction of the emperor's city. Things had become serious. The heavens had already exploded, and the land beyond the heavens was rumbling fiercely, revealing an extremely terrifying might. The sea of chaos that filled the sky exploded, and a vague and mysterious figure of an emperor looked down on the celestial world, emitting an extremely grand aura that pierced through the past, present, and future. The river of history appeared, so terrifying that it was as if the world was about to be destroyed. The space-time emperor and the others cried out in shock. This unimaginable figure emitted an aura that was too terrifying. The world was about to be destroyed, the four seas burst, and the suns in the sky exploded. It really could destroy the world. The Phoenix King and the others' bodies were about to explode, feeling an endless might. In fact, this was not targeted at them, but the might was emitting, affecting the environment of the world. Otherwise, if it contained killing intent, everything would start to be destroyed. The spiritual sovereign emperor was shocked. Was this the conjured body of the celestial court master? His body and mind were about to collapse, and he almost bowed down in worship. In fact, the more powerful the existence, the more they could feel how shocking the invincible figure that came out of the exploded jar was. The river of history was rumbling, and it could affect the past and future of the celestial world. Inconceivable! The old azure dragon trembled. What kind of existence was this? It could roam the river of history, cross the past, present, and future. This was a true invincible giant that could sweep through everything, and its figure could simply pass through 10,000 realms, extremely imposing. Master's aura. In the distant land beyond the heavens, two terrifying beings were infinitely close to the celestial world. They had encountered too many dangers along the way. The two terrifying creatures had both suffered quite a bit of injuries. A purple Chelan roared, its voice exploding in the river of time and space. Its eyes were filled with tears, and it knelt on the ground, roaring, "Master's aura! It's Master's aura! Great, let's go quickly. The celestial world is very close to us." The big black tiger shouted excitedly. They could feel the aura of the celestial court master. Although it was not at its peak and only had limited power, it had completely turned into a lighthouse in the world of death beyond the heavens, guiding them back in a short time. Boom! The celestial realm's environment was trembling. The Emperor's shadow that walked out of the jar shook the billions of ancient realms. The airflow that flowed out of it made the dozen or so old monsters that had broken through Big Brother's energy defense line and were closing in on the Imperial City tremble. Especially Tian Huayuan. He knelt on the ground. He couldn't see or hear anything. His heart was about to stop beating. "Retreat quickly!" The experts from the Emperor clans roared. The Emperor phantoms above Emperor City were so terrifying that they all shivered. They didn't dare to approach at all, fearing that they would be killed. Dao Shui walked forward, looking at the blurry Emperor's shadow. He was ready to push this supreme law order to destroy the group of old monsters who were attacking him. What's the point of killing them? Su Yan's eyes flashed with coldness. Once this law order was thrown out, it would definitely be able to suppress and kill everything. If he did the same thing, this law of order would not exist for a long time and would soon disappear. After all, this law order did not have the will of the master of the celestial court. It was only a protective item given to Dao Shui. However, what did killing a few emperors count for? This was already a difficult crisis. Su Yan had to buy time for the Monkey King and the others to move the clans away. "What are you doing?" Dao Shui frowned. Back then, he had given Su Yan the ultimate trump card for him to defend and protect himself. It could only be used in the final desperate situation. What was Su Yan doing now? In reality, when Su Yan's primordial spirit stepped into the immortal king realm, he knew what was sealed in the jar. It was a law order of the master of the celestial court. The beginning sutra is part of the cultivation sutra of the master of the celestial court. If this Emperor Dao law can be injected into my body, I can use it in battle. Su Yan's words made Dao Shui shake his head. That's too crazy. Don't act recklessly. You'll die. There's no turning back. Su Yan's chest rose and fell violently. His eyes were red. He looked at the army in the Imperial City and roared, "They can fight for me. Now I, Su Yan, will fight for them too. I won't regret dying." "Let me do it," Dao Shui said softly. "My chances of survival are higher than yours." "No." Su Yan grabbed Dao Shui's wrist and shook his head. "I'll do it. I've already formed a supreme treasure. Moreover, I have the Emperor horoscope imprint. I can gather the essence of the celestial world and maintain the law order." "Let me do it." Dao Shui frowned. This was the law order of the master of the celestial court. How could it be easily carried? The space-time emperor walked over. He could use his body as a vessel to carry this law order. Dao Shui smiled bitterly. This was left behind by the master of the celestial court. It had to be his descendant or someone who cultivated his sutra. Su Yan and she were the most suitable candidates. "There's no time," Su Yan roared. He saw Tian Huayuan crawling up and grabbing Mu Xian and the Grand Sanus. He roared, help me, quick." The Dao Shui's hands suddenly pushed forward, and the life providence of the special envoy in the child's body instantly awakened, producing an extremely terrifying resonance with the Emperor's Dao figure. Boom! The lightning shadow exploded. Su Yan's body trembled violently as if it was about to disintegrate. From this moment onwards, his universal sutra order was broken. The only thing left was the Origin Sutra. Su Yan's body seemed to have turned into a supreme Dao foundation. Thick blood qi radiated from his body, describing the origin of all things and the supreme law order of the heavens. If you can understand the profound meaning of the Origin Sutra, your chances of survival will be higher. Dao Shui felt that there was a lot of hope. With a soft shout, she pushed the Emperor Dao Law with her palms. In an instant, it flowed into Su Yan's body. In an instant, as Su Yan's black hair danced in the air, the golden color of his flesh and blood shone brightly. Even a moment his hair fluttered, it turned into a golden color. This was terrifying. The stars in the sky were cut apart by the hair. Golden divine light rushed out from Su Yan's body. The entire world was about to disintegrate as countless cracks appeared. The golden figure was peerlessly terrifying. It looked down on the myriad realms and caused the immortal world's environment to disintegrate. Roar! Su Yan let out a furious roar and felt his aura soar. This law order contained the most profound mysteries, and the initial sutra that Su Yan cultivated welcomed a great explosion. It actually allowed Su Yan to unleash the strongest power of this law order without any flaws. Spacetime Monarch exclaimed, "What a great method! Even if they left behind a law order, it was impossible for their descendants to completely refine it into their bodies." Boom! Su Yan's golden pupils burned. Billions of stars in the universe appeared. His pores spewed out the light of the myriad realms. He displayed a grand and boundless might that could suppress the entire immortal world. Old Azure Dragon and the others were shocked. They all retreated. This was too terrifying and shocking. It was as if the master of the celestial court was reborn. It was just an emperor's law that penetrated Su Yan's body. However, his aura was completely different. His chi and blood were golden. It swept through the reincarnation cycle and reigned supreme. It was as if the master of the celestial court had returned. A peerless figure looked down on the vast universe and the immortal world. In his terrifying and unimaginable realm, the entire immortal world was rumbling and shaking. How was this possible? A group of old monsters who were running away were trembling. What kind of figure was that? Was that still immortal Emperor Zong? He walked through all things in the heavens. He stepped on the river of history and dominated the world. In almost an instant, Su Yan closed in from afar. Before he even arrived, a vast pressure that filled the sky suppressed the boundless space and time as he charged towards the group of old monsters from the Emperor clan. Along the way, Tian Huayuan trembled in fear. His body and mind were about to collapse. He felt the ground and felt despair. He said in a trembling voice, "No, no, no." He was very afraid because this figure that was charging over, with just the golden chi and blood flowing out of his pores, instantly caused Tian Huayuan's flesh and blood to burn on its own. Even his primordial spirit was melting. His entire body was about to explode into ashes. Mu Xian's big eyes flowed with tears. She could see Su Yan clearly. He was so powerful that he was heaven-defying. His eyes were filled with billions of stars. His body seemed to contain the boundless heavens and myriad realms, causing the great Tao of the immortal world to disintegrate. Tian Huayuan exploded. A great accomplishment, immortal king died instantly. Along the way, a group of other living beings from the Emperor race also died tragically. They couldn't resist at all. In front of the master of the celestial court, who truly looked down on the river of history, these people were completely dust and shattered into pieces. Mu Xian and the Grand Saintess were teleported into the Emperor's city. From this moment on, Su Yan completely let go. He turned into an invincible sacred body. His roar shook the 6 paths of reincarnation, causing the entire world to collapse endlessly. Oh my God! A boundless divine aura swept across the immortal world. The overwhelming aura caused all the tribes and orthodoxies to tremble. Even the monarch tribes were trembling in fear. Ancestral court was bleeding, indicating great fear, indicating that the immortal world was about to change. This was really the end of the world. Su Yan's aura was boundless and terrifying. He pushed the sea of stars forward. Step by step, he crossed the boundless world and killed his way to the end of the world. A bunch of small fries. Su Yan roared. His chi and blood were boundless. He simply killed his way to the end of the universe of the immortal world. He roared, "All of you have to die." The land beyond the heavens collapsed. The unimaginable majesty caused the land of the immortal world to collapse. His tongue battled the sound of thunder, and golden holy light whistled in his body. This was a power that could truly fight everything. The moment it swept over, the old monsters who were fleeing one after another cried out in fear. Their bodies were about to disintegrate. They were terrified. These people were Emperor Realm experts, although they had declined, although they didn't have the strength of their peak. However, Su Yan's terror made them tremble. Their Emperor Realm bodies were collapsing. The scene was too horrible to look at. Emperor Realm blood surged in the sky, dyeing the vast world red. "Kill!" Su Yan roared. His fist imprint was matchless. The sea of stars poured into the 33 heavens. Vast mountains and rivers appeared, and billions of stars rumbled and rotated. This punch was too terrifying. It swept through the world, rivers, and mountains, causing the membrane of the immortal world to collapse. A gap appeared in the immortal world. Emperor Realm blood surged and splattered. Facing the fist that smashed towards him, a declining old monster screamed miserably. His chest was blasted through. The profound mysteries of the supreme laws instantly shattered his flesh and blood body. A big shot was directly blasted apart by Su Yan. This was an invincible combat strength that shook the space-time of the immortal world. It was unprecedented. Chapter 2081. The Emperor exploded, and blood splattered all over the world. Heaven and earth trembled, and the great Tao of the celestial world exploded. Su Yan's punch was too terrifying. His fist suppressed the world, and a hole was blasted open in the celestial world. Bloody light poured into the outer realm. The scene was too horrible to look at. A corner of the celestial realm was blasted apart by the fist. One could imagine how frightening it was. Su Yan had practically turned into a peerless emperor, looking down on the celestial realm with disdain. He had blasted apart a declining old giant with a single punch. At the same time, the expressions of the universe enlightened ancestral gods from the dark dimension changed one after another in the three realms battlefield. Their gazes were able to see a figure that seemed to be too lofty to reach, standing towering at the peak of the immortal dimension, and his imposing aura swallowed boundless space. The golden body appeared in the world. It was incomparably terrifying. It was like the master of the celestial court who had left the three realms had returned, shocking the three realms. Su Yan's eyes burned brighter than the sun. They emitted killing intent, and a deep roar resounded. Heaven and earth were in chaos. Su Yan had terrifying combat strength. Moreover, from charging out of the Emperor's city, to destroying Tian Huayuan, to killing a group of old monsters who were fleeing, he had arrived in an instant. The Emperor exploded, causing a huge change in heaven and earth. The world was bleeding, and the great Tao of the celestial world was wailing. "Bastard, if we can't get rid of Su Yan, what face do we, the Xian people, have?" The ancestral land of the Xian people was in complete chaos. Countless clansmen screamed. Another emperor had fallen. The celestial sky emperor had fallen. The celestial martial emperor had fallen, and the domain suppression emperor had fallen. 4 great emperors had fallen here. The bloody incident that shook the foundations of the emperor clans shook the celestial world. This was the most ancient emperor clan in the celestial world, but now their emperors had fallen one after another. Everyone was trembling, and their hearts were filled with great fear. Many of the Xian people were in despair. Su Yan was too powerful and invincible. He emitted an inviolable majesty, and he had the determination to destroy the emperor clans. Why bother? Why bother? Can't we just let them leave? We have to leave a way out. Angry roars could be heard from the ancestral court. Haven't enough people died? The 10 great battlefields are already in chaos, yet the emperor clans are still fighting amongst themselves. How much fate energy can our immortal realm still have? This calamity, regardless of how it ended, the emperor clan's losses were too great. The armies of the 3 monarchs have been severely injured by Su Yan, and the Dark World had restarted the great war of immortals and demons. The immortal monarch and the other war gods of the younger generation had all died, and the immortal Phoenix army was about to leave with tens of millions of soldiers. The space-time emperor and the others were also about to leave. The world changed. A few emperor clan's authoritative figures all felt alarmed, especially now that they were currently carrying out a world-destroying great battle. Boom! A huge crack appeared in the sky, and the boundless earth was collapsing. Su Yan's aura swallowed the world. His golden body was blazing, and his golden hair danced in the wind like a waterfall, emitting a peerless, domineering aura. His murderous aura covered the sky and covered the earth, surging violently. He was invincible. A group of old giants were all terrified, and they all let out low roars. Their auras were fully awakened, and the Emperor's origins in their bodies were burning. There were also Emperor weapons that filled the sky one after another. There was a sword embryo that could split the world, a gourd that spewed out a chaotic Emperor's sea, a great halberd that emitted a world-destroying light. Not only were more than a dozen terrifying creatures erupting, but they also forced the Emperor's horoscope to burn again. In an instant, the immortal realm changed greatly, and the millions of ancient worlds were rumbling. Boundless energy and matter were awakened, accompanied by the burning of Emperor's Tao nomological laws that filled the sky. Kill! The world-destroying great battle erupted. It was as if the shackles of the immortal realm had been opened, and it rushed out of the trillions of world-destroying calamities, charging towards Su Yan. The battle was intense to the extreme, and the world was filled with resplendent divine light. Even the immortal kings didn't dare to look directly at it, and the silent Emperor clan's ancestral courts would occasionally cry out in alarm. This was a world-destroying battle, and a group of old monsters had practically sacrificed millions of ancient worlds in the immortal realm to reverse the most powerful slaughter. Roar! Su Yan roared loudly. His body was golden, and his aura was unprecedented, terrifying to the extreme. Boom! The worlds revolved around him, revealing the supreme order of laws. It was as if they had turned into an invincible emperor's horoscope and emperor's art. It was also as if they had split open the space-time of the immortal realm, opened up an eternal pure land, and deduced the invincible Tao. Emperor suppression art. Su Yan's eyes widened. The moment his arms shook, an invincible majesty flowed out. It was as if he had pushed the long river of history, sweeping through the past, present, and future. It covered the entire universe. The great Tao of the immortal realm was eternally silent. Everything fell into silence under the push of Su Yan's arms. Even time and years had disappeared. All matter was dead silent under the Emperor suppression art that Su Yan pushed. How is this possible? Some of the old giants were terrified. What kind of inheritance did Su Yan release? The environment of the immortal realm was directly suppressed. This was a peerless and terrifying power. It was as if it had rushed over along the long river of time. It was so terrifying that it was unmatched. Boom! The Emperor's sea that filled the sky disintegrated. This supreme Emperor's art was too terrifying, and its might shook the immortal realm. An old monster from the Emperor race cried out miserably. His body was trembling. He had suffered an extremely powerful attack. Suddenly, a corner of the immortal realm's original order blocked it, but it still seeped through. It was as if the long river of history had collapsed. The suppressive power whistled out, causing half of his body to crack. No! Another old expert at the very front cried out miserably. His head burst open, and his primordial spirit rustled and fell. He could not break free, could not resist. The Emperor suppression art could suppress the Emperor Tao laws. It was filled with unparalleled battle prowess. So what if he was emperor? Suddenly, in a situation where more than a dozen emperors joined forces to kill Su Yan, he used the Emperor suppression art to break through the line of defense. Moreover, these old giants could not be considered emperors in the true sense. They were just fake emperors who borrowed the environment of the immortal realm to become emperors. What did Su Yin eat? How can he be so powerful? Countless creatures let out trembling voices. They saw that in the world-destroying battle, an emperor from the celestial race was dying. His primordial spirit had collapsed, and his entire emperor body was torn apart. It collapsed in the void, exploding into a rain of energy light, forming a land of death. Another emperor from the reincarnation emperor race had half of his body broken. He was terrified and in despair as he quickly retreated. Everyone in the world went crazy. Such a terrifying lineup of super powerful experts had not been able to suppress Su Yin. Instead, he broke through the line of defense and killed another emperor. "Where do you think you're going?" Su Yin shouted. His killing intent was boundless. He waved the immortal slaying sword and killed in all directions. The group of old giants chose to retreat. They were not willing to face Su Yin. Once they faced him head-on, they would die miserably in a single move. A portion of the power that belonged to the master of the celestial court was now completely controlled by Su Yin. This group of emperors was truly frightened. There are also people who cursed the person who spoke just now. Couldn't he have just let them leave? Why did he have to force them to this step? Why did he have to destroy them indiscriminately? All of a sudden, a cold light shot out from the depths of Su Yin's eyes. He gazed at a distant area, at a bustling ancient city. The entire city was trembling. Su Yin wanted to slaughter all the creatures in the city with a single thought. All the cultivators in the city were trembling. Large batches of them were paralyzed on the ground. The entire city was about to collapse. In particular, there was an exceptionally beautiful woman in the city. She had removed the celestial emperor armor and was wearing a sky-blue dress. Her skin was snow-white and sparkling like a divine pearl of the nine heavens. She was extremely stunning. At this very moment, a pair of eyes that contained millions of stars looked through the boundless earth. In an instant, a huge hole appeared in the ancient city. The group of celestial race experts guarding beside the Empress were instantly killed. The Empress let out a painful groan. Her body instantly traversed millions of territories and landed in front of Su Yin. What kind of supreme, heavenly might was this? It directly killed a group of celestial race experts who were guarding her. Moreover, it was so far away. The Empress fell in front of him, her delicate body trembling. This was the high and mighty Empress. In the era when Su Yin did not appear, the Empress was undoubtedly the strongest war god of the younger generation. But now, the Empress was paralyzed in front of Su Yin, trembling. The scene in this world was somewhat silent. Among the group of experts who were fleeing in the distance, the Celestial Race Emperor was covered in wounds. His body was half crippled. If not for the Celestial Emperor armor protecting his life source, the Celestial Race Emperor would have died a long time ago. After all, the Celestial Race Emperor could be called an emperor. At this moment, he trembled. He pointed at Su Yin and growled, "What are you doing?" The people of the Celestial Race went crazy. This was the Empress. Now, Su Yin had captured the Empress alive. This glorious number one woman of the celestial world was paralyzed beside Su Yin. She had always been arrogant, but when had she ever been treated like this? She did not even dare to raise her head to look at Su Yin. Su Yin raised his hand and pinched the Empress's chin, making her face him. Although she was trembling, there was not much fear on her face. She said softly, "Brother Su, are you going to kill me?" Su Yin stopped. The Celestial Race Emperor roared. He activated the Celestial Emperor armor and counterattacked. A group of Celestial Race experts also roared in anger. The Empress was the pillar of the Celestial Race's younger generation. Once she collapsed, the blow to the Celestial Race would be too heavy. Boom! Su Yin stepped on the universe and revealed his peerless strength. The group of emperors could not get close to him. Su Yin's eyes flashed with coldness. He looked at the Empress's delicate face and said coldly, "I originally had a good impression of the Celestial Race, but I didn't expect you to be so crazy. You even suppressed a woman like Mu Xian. I think it's a good idea to use the Empress's life to pay for it." "Su Yin, how dare you do this?" The group of old monsters from the Tian clan were so angry that their eyes almost split open as they roared angrily. Su Yin, the celestial race's battle gate, is open. Only the Empress can participate. Do you know the consequences of killing her? Some of the Xian people's experts shouted angrily. Ridiculous. Su Yin glanced at the Xian people's experts and said coldly, "What does that have to do with me? Wait here. I'll kill you soon." These old monsters who had not appeared in the world for a long time cried out in grief and indignation. They were suppressed by a young man, but they did not have enough strength to resist. This was a kind of tragedy. Brother Su wants to kill me. I can't resist. I can only wait to be captured. The Empress smiled bitterly. She had no room to resist Su Yin, especially when she saw the power in his eyes. It was enough to make the Empress's primordial spirit tremble and let out a painful groan. She was about to die. Open it. Su Yin threw out the celestial race ring and placed it in front of the Empress. You. The Empress's scalp went numb. Su Yin had already gone to the burial realm and even obtained the supreme treasure that the Celestials wanted to retrieve. She originally wanted to borrow Su Yan's power, but now Su Yin suppressed the Empress and forced her to open the ring. Evil creature. In the ancestral land of the Celestials, a tall man with bronze skin had eyes like lightning. He was terrifying beyond compare. In an instant, he waved his hand, and a golden bell appeared. He directly threw it out, and the golden bell suddenly collapsed space and time. This method was too domineering. He sat cross-legged in his family's ancestral land and raised his hand to throw the bell, wanting to kill Su Yin. This was a golden bell that seemed to have come along the long river of time. It emitted an aura that could split heaven and earth. It was so grand that it could encompass all the worlds in the heavens. Celestial Emperor's Bell. The Celestials were overjoyed. This was the supreme treasure of the Celestials. The golden bell suddenly sank and instantly swallowed Su Yin. The world lost its color, and the heroes roared. Su Yin was suppressed within the golden bell. The golden bell rumbled, and it was as if heaven and earth were being split apart. It evolved a terrifying and boundless killing order that wanted to destroy Su Yin. Roar! With a loud roar, the entire ground collapsed. Dong! The golden bell suddenly shook. Su Yan's golden flesh shell revealed unparalleled combat strength. He raised his fist and smashed it on the bell. In an instant, the golden bell was blasted into the 9 heavens. Everything in outer space exploded, and the golden bell was blasted away. Su Yan's golden color danced wildly. Killing light surged in his eyes. He rushed out of the immortal slaying sword and slashed at the golden bell. Immediately after, an even more terrifying danger swept over. The reincarnation heavenly eye and immortal emperor seal attacked from the sky. Kill! In the ancestral land of the 3 emperor clans, the 3 supreme treasures revived. The golden bell once again pressed down. The other 2 supreme treasures also revived and attacked Su Yin. Chapter 2082. Su Yan's long golden hair danced, and the sun and moon sank in his eyes. The laws left behind by the master of the celestial court were awakened and suppressed the universe's sea of stars. Su Yin was full of peerless dominance. The crown princess prostrated herself at Su Yan's feet, trembling. Having lost her heavenly emperor armor, she didn't even have the courage to stand in front of Su Yin. The pinnacle killing formation had already been formed. The supreme true treasures of the 3 celestial realms had all awakened at the same time. Oh my God! The deities cried out in alarm. This aura affected the immortal realm, and an irresistible divine might swept through everything. They found it difficult to endure, and countless creatures fell weak onto the ground. This is a supreme true treasure, and it's said to be a heaven-defying artifact that accompanied the origin of the celestial world. Even emperors shivered inwardly. These 3 treasures were terrifying to the point where they obliterated heaven and earth, sweeping down with world-destroying power. The 3 supreme true treasures of the 3 emperor clans are the most terrifying weapons in the immortal world. Celestial Emperor Bell, Immortal Emperor Seal, Reincarnation Heavenly Eye. The people of the world cried out in horror. This was a killing move to get rid of Su Yin. Boom! The origins of the three supreme treasures were unimaginable. They were the super powerful trump cards of the three Arch clans, and they would only be used when their clans were in danger of being wiped out. After all, the influence of these three supreme treasures on the environment of the celestial realm was too great. Dong, dong, dong. The heavenly monarch bell rumbled as it opened up the universe. The bell was so majestic that even the stars in the outer realms seemed tiny before it. The golden bell blasted out wave after wave of golden waves, emitting extremely powerful energy that could easily collapse the immortal world's great Tao and shatter the ancient world. The seal of the immortal emperor dominated the world. A vague figure appeared on the ancient and majestic seal. It was as if the immortal emperor of the Xian people had been reborn and was looking down on the immortal world. The heavenly eye of Samsara opened the ancient world of Samsara, turning the heaven and earth into the most een and dark. A corner of the immortal world seemed to have fallen into the cycle of life and death, almost covering the vast world. Any sect's supreme true treasure was a heaven-defying killing weapon. A single clash was enough to shatter a monarch and kill a terrifying being. The process was extremely terrifying. The Tao laws released by Su Yan's golden corporeal body were rumbling, as if they were about to be broken through. Su Yan looked up to the sky and roared. His body was shaking, and he was on the verge of collapsing. It was not that the law order of the master of the celestial court could not withstand it. In fact, it was the power of the three supreme true treasures that was too shocking. A small amount of power seeped in, and Su Yan's body and soul were about to be destroyed. He was coughing out blood. His hair was disheveled, and his body was on the verge of breaking apart. After all, Su Yan was only an immortal king, and his body was constantly suffering from destructive injuries. Dao Shui clenched his fists tightly. He was in big trouble. The three supreme true treasures were working together to kill Su Yan. After all, Su Yan's physical body was too weak. If a trace of order were to splash in, it would be enough to kill Su Yan. Moreover, even if Su Yan could withstand it, after a long period of fighting, the damage to Su Yan would only become greater and greater. Now, his mortal body had cracked open, threatening his fundamental source of Tao. "Soldiers, come!" Su Yan's roar shook the starry sky. He waved his hand, and the burial world space-time suddenly shook violently. The slumbering land of life was awakening, and the burial cave floating in the Emperor Sea rushed over in an instant. Although the burial cave was incomplete, it had been nourished in the Emperor Sea for so many years. This grotto heaven world, forged by the human worlds bury the heavens, was steaming with the light of the 33 levels of heaven, and a vast burial aura sprinkled down. When the burial cave penetrated Su Yan's body, his aura became much more terrifying. It was as if billions of heavenly suns had been shattered, and it was so dazzling that it made people's eyes bleed. Everyone trembled. What was going on? Su Yan still had a super killer weapon. This was the burial cave, the most powerful grotto heaven blessed land in the human world's burial ground era. Roar! Su Yan let out a loud roar. His aura was terrifying and infinitely powerful. His mortal body turned into the 33 levels of heaven, and even the law order of the celestial court in his body became terrifying in an instant. It was as if he had manifested the real myriad worlds. "Kill!" Su Yan let out a loud roar and threw a punch. It was so domineering that it seemed to have shaken away the past and the present. The golden bell that was smashing down was sent flying backward. He opened his mouth and spat out a stream of heavenly chi. In the river, the immortal Emperor's seal rumbled. Su Yan brandished the celestial slaying sword. Although this ultimate treasure could only be said to be the strongest ultimate treasure, it emitted an aura that could annihilate all immortals in the world. It was unleashed with a sword that could slay the epic and cut open the world of reincarnation. How terrifying! All the strong people in the world trembled. The three ultimate treasures were forced to retreat in a short time. Su Yan was ridiculously powerful. It was so terrifying that it caused the heaven and earth to collapse. Su Yan's hair danced in the wind. He stood between the heaven and earth, and his aura swallowed the long river of time and space. He dominated the celestial world space-time and looked disdainfully at the Emperor race. This was power and ferocious aura. It caused the group of old giants in the distance to tremble even more. They didn't dare to get close to Su Yan. He was already invincible. The three ultimate treasures joined forces, but they were still forced to retreat by Su Yan in a short time. "Open it!" Su Yan shouted angrily. The princess's body trembled and was about to shatter completely. She was in despair and fear. Who would have thought that the glorious princess would be reduced to Su Yan's prisoner, and even forced to open her family's ultimate treasure? The princess couldn't bear it and wanted to submit and fall at Su Yan's feet. However, she was still struggling fiercely in her heart. Su Yan was furious. As he breathed, rolling light sputtered out of his chest. In the state of the stealing heaven technique, it affected the princess's spirit and will. The moment she was enslaved by Su Yan, her hands formed a series of seals and sent them into the ring. "No!" The celestial emperor roared angrily. He was about to go crazy. The princess had opened the seal of the ring. It was too late to say anything now. The ring was shining. What surprised Su Yan was that this wasn't a storage treasure. The ring was actually an ultimate treasure. It turned into an ancient stone book. It was like the boundary wall of the celestial world, filled with the mysteries of the heavens. Heaven-opening imperial scripture. Su Yan looked up to the sky and laughed. His primordial spirit engraved the scripture on the stone book. This was the real heaven-opening imperial scripture, and also the most original scripture. No wonder the celestial race valued it so much. It turned out that the ultimate treasure lost back then had such shocking implications. Now, he had obtained the inheritance scriptures of the three emperor clans, three ultimate scriptures. If he counted the heaven-opening lightning scripture, heaven-opening scripture, and human emperor scripture, then Su Yan had a total of 6 great scriptures. This was a great opportunity enough to make the emperor clans go crazy, especially the heaven-opening imperial scripture that was hailed as the strongest. It was actually obtained in such a ridiculous way. Kill him. The 3 young men and women in the ancestral land of the 3 emperor clans had bone-chilling expressions. The 3 great experts were separated by time and space, but the 3 ultimate hegemons that they grasped awakened once again, releasing a terrifying and boundless power. "Ah!" The princess screamed. She was smashed into the golden bell by Su Yan and exploded into ashes. All living beings in the world cried out in grief. The princess was smashed to death by Su Yan. She crashed into the golden bell and completely exploded. The entire world resonated. The 3 emperor clans were furious to the extreme. A series of their successors were almost all killed by Su Yan, an unimaginably heavy loss. The experts in the ancestral court of the various great emperor clans sighed. A very small matter ultimately caused a change in history. It was really like a butterfly flapping its wings in the long river of history, causing a huge change in history. The general trend of the celestial world had already been broken by Su Yan. "Ha ha, come." Su Yan laughed angrily. "So what if you kill me? Today I, Su Yan, have killed enough. If you can't kill me, I will destroy the 3 great emperor clans in the future." Facing the 3 violent ultimate treasures that were slashing towards him, Su Yan sneered and attacked. The world-ending battle was even more brutal. The earth of the celestial world trembled continuously, and black whirlwinds swept out continuously, pressing towards the distant earth. The earth of the celestial world rumbled violently, and countless ancient worlds were collapsing. The battle was world-shaking. The 3 ultimate treasures continuously attacked Su Yan. This battle was very difficult, and he was constantly losing his life source. If it wasn't for the heaven-burying cave stabilizing Su Yan's corporeal body, he wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. There were also some emperors who charged over with great killing weapons, wanting to kill Su Yan. This battle was too crazy. The 3 emperor clans deployed terrifying forces to kill him. The whole world was bleeding. Su Yin fought crazily, activating the aura of the myriad worlds on his body, sweeping through all directions. As the battle dragged on, Su Yan's injuries became more and more serious. Celestial Court, the power left behind by the Master, was limited in the end. To resist the joint attack of 3 ultimate treasures and a series of terrifying creatures, it was already a miracle that he could hold on until now. Kill! Su Yin roared loudly. The golden flesh shell overflowed with holy light, and the immortal iron staff suddenly trembled, emitting an indestructible will and an unyielding will, as if it had been broken by them before. Boom! In an instant, under Su Yan's control, the immortal iron staff blazed endlessly, and dazzling celestial light shot out in all directions, causing pieces of the immortal iron staff to fly out from various regions of the celestial world. Crack! In a short period of brilliance, the immortal iron staff was intact. The blazing golden staff smashed through the 9 heavens and 10 earths, releasing a powerful aura. Roar! A world-shaking roar exploded, and the intact, immortal iron staff exploded. A heavenly monkey rose behind Su Yin and accompanied Su Yin as he swung the immortal iron staff. Just this strike alone caused heaven and earth to tremble, and the long river of history appeared, scattering down matchless killing intent, bombarding the 3 ultimate treasures until they trembled. One had to know that this was Su Yan's 3 trump cards, and it was so powerful that it could destroy the world. The unparalleled immortal iron staff suppressed the sun, moon, and stars, destroying all things in the world. As it swept through the air, terrifying creatures were sent flying one after another. They were all shocked. Was this a supreme, true treasure? The immortal iron staff dominated heaven and earth, and Su Yin turned into a heaven-defying war god. His roar caused the long river of time and space to explode, and an ancient and invincible power erupted. This staff was too shocking, and even the bodies of emperors were damaged when they were struck. Su Yin went berserk while bathed in blood, and the great Tao of heaven and earth collapsed. With the immortal iron staff in hand, he was like a tiger that had grown wings and attacked enemies in all directions, causing the 3 ultimate treasures to tremble continuously. There were emperors who cried out miserably, their bodies in tatters, and they fell to their deaths here. There were also emperor weapons that exploded, crumbling into ashes. Su Yin wreaked havoc in the celestial world and turned into an invincible giant, killing everything. Kill! He roared continuously, and with the determination to destroy the 3 emperor weapons, he wanted to slaughter these emperors. Quickly retreat, quickly! At this moment, Dao Shi transmitted a message. Space-Time Emperor and Old Azure Dragon had joined hands to move a large number of races, and if they continued fighting, the 3 Emperors' clans would be driven mad. In fact, Space-Time Emperor and the others didn't know how deep the foundations of the 3 Emperors' clans were. Now that the battle had reached this stage, Su Yin would definitely be severely injured, and if this continued, it would most likely threaten Su Yan's life. Boom! Suddenly, the celestial world's space-time trembled violently, and the entire space-time dimension seemed to have fallen. Not good. Something big has happened. Space-Time Emperor's expression changed drastically. The celestial world was changing. The path that they had constructed to leave was becoming blurry and distorted, and it was even about to collapse. Space-Time Emperor even saw that all the space-time tunnels in the celestial world had collapsed, and the entire celestial world seemed to have turned into a blood-colored purgatory, making the Emperor's hair stand on end, as if they were about to fall and die at the same time. Is this the fundamental reason why the 3 Emperors' clans were able to survive back then? Dao Shui was a little frightened as they saw an unbelievable scene. Because the 3 supreme true treasures had changed, the reincarnation heavenly, I had turned into a real eye, and it was boundlessly huge, spewing out the scene of the universe's destruction, revealing the source of endless terror, looking down on the celestial world space-time. In front of this golden vertical, Even the emperors looked exceptionally small. The immortal emperor seal had also changed, turning into a bleeding hand bone, and the scene was extremely horrifying. The Xian people's immortal emperor seal was forged from a hand bone. So how strong was the owner of this hand bone when he was alive? Especially the golden bell, which gradually turned into a bleeding body. The three supreme true treasures were bleeding, as if they were floating in the torrent of history, and also floating in the origin of the celestial world. Boom! The celestial world space-time was a sea of blood, and even the space-time was infected, turning into the color of blood, causing the origin of the celestial world to tremble. Unbelievable! Small pagoda exploded and roared. Is it because the big shots behind the three emperors' clans died and were forged into supreme treasures, or is it because of some other special reason? This is an unimaginable disaster. Chapter 2083. Blood flowed out of the broken body as if it was living in the past, living in the boundless space-time. The blood-stained hand bones looked ferocious and horrifying. When they raised their hand, they seemed to be able to open the river of history and kill their way to before the epic. That golden eye was also bleeding. The scene was extremely terrifying. This was a ridiculous event that shook the celestial world. The entire world was shaken. The three supreme treasures of the three emperor clans had turned into three broken corpses. This sent chills down the spines of the experts from the various emperor clans. What was this? Whose corpses were these? Whose bones were these? Whose eyes were these? What kind of secrets did the three emperor clans have? What kind of secrets did they have? The three supreme treasures had appeared in their complete form. This was very terrifying. It was a sign of a great disaster. Woo-woo. The celestial world's universe was filled with rivers of blood. It was extremely ferocious. The pressure made billions of living beings tremble. The three broken corpses caused the dimension of the celestial world to change. Bloody lights surged and flooded the space-time beyond the heavens. It was a world-destroying divine light. The river of history was suddenly bright and suddenly dark. The flow of time seemed to have been reversed. This was an extremely terrifying scene. It was even crueler than the end of the world. The order of the entire celestial world was reversed. Everyone's emperor's fate was suppressed. It was as if they had entered an era of domination. The environment was directly controlled. The extremely cold golden eye shot out radiance. It created the cycle of life and death. It affected the space-time of the celestial world to be bright and suddenly dark. It was as if a peerless devil master who had been sleeping for billions of years had awakened. It caused the heavens to explode and the stars to fall from the sky. The origins of this golden pupil were unimaginable. It emanated the phenomenon of the destruction of the universe, and it scattered down a boundlessly terrifying aura. The light it shot out simply radiated the entire celestial world and caused an enormous calamity. It was as cold as the eye of the heavens. What was terrifying was that it contained some kind of emotional fluctuation. It was as if it was still alive. Su Yin had a splitting headache. He screamed shrilly. His eyes were bleeding. Billions of stars were being destroyed in his eyes. He was attacked by a terrifying power. Even his primordial spirit was about to die. If the master of the celestial court had not left behind a law order at the crucial moment to protect him, Su Yin would have died in a single blow. What kind of existence was this? Was it so majestic that it could look down on the three realms? It was terrifying to an inconceivable degree. Even the great Tao of heaven and earth knelt down. The heavens wailed, and a rain of blood descended. Even the will of the immortal world trembled. The monarch fate mark on Su Yan's forehead also dimmed and blurred. The bleeding corpses continued to bleed, as if they had flowed through the long river of time. Some of the blurry corpses seemed to be at the end of the long river of time, watching the ups and downs of the immortal world. Boom! This blood-stained hand was a world-destroying hand. It was boundlessly majestic, capable of collapsing time and space. It was majestic to the point of covering the entire immortal world. Who could compete with the supreme killing technique? The bloody handprint slapped down viciously and landed on Su Yan's body with a loud boom. The myriad worlds that were reflected in Su Yan's body rumbled on their own. Although Su Yan managed to block the supreme killing technique of this palm, he was still unable to withstand it. However, there was an irresistible force that swept into Su Yan's body. The 33-layered heaven burial grotto rumbled and trembled, almost being shaken out of Su Yan's body. Puffed, Su Yan coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. His body cracked, and he looked terrible. He was about to be killed. This was a supreme killing trap that could not be resolved. Even monarchs seemed extremely dim. If Su Yan did not have various supreme treasures protecting him, he would have died directly. It was impossible for him to survive. Su Yan's hair was disheveled, and his body was covered in wounds. He had suddenly condensed the body of an immortal king, but it was nothing. His entire body was broken. Suddenly, the order of laws that surrounded Su Yan's body suddenly blazed and rumbled. This order of laws was changing, and it vaguely gave birth to some kind of shocking change. It operated on its own and released a clear brilliance. It was as if it was opening up the myriad worlds, and it emitted a majesty that could not be profaned. In the direction of the imperial city, wave after wave of mighty waves came. Loud chanting of sutras. Dao Shui sat cross-legged. Her wide Taoist robe fluttered, and her loose black hair danced in the wind. She looked dignified as she chanted supreme Taoist sounds, causing the order of laws in Su Yan's body to rotate. Gradually, Dao Shui's figure was hazy with golden bloodlight. Drop after drop of golden blood flowed. Every drop of blood essence surged with a supreme aura, accompanied by an incomparably terrifying influence, causing the space-time emperor and the others to feel a chill. What kind of monarch blood was this? It could be said to be the blood of the monarch king. Drop after drop of monarch blood sputtered out from Dao Shui's body. Every drop was resplendent and overflowing, illuminating the blood-colored space-time of the immortal world. It was like a blazing sun that would never be extinguished. It followed the long river of time and space and entered Su Yan's body. Roar! Su Yan roared at the sky. His body seemed to have exploded, and his pores spewed out terrifying light. In the blink of an eye, his aura was greatly weakened. What greeted him was an excruciating pain that was even crueler than being torn to shreds. This was because the order of laws left behind by the master of the heavenly court had flown out of Su Yan's body. What is that? The deities roared. Their scalps went numb, and they almost knelt on the ground. The bleeding immortal world's space-time underwent a great change. The opening power was too shocking. It was as if the majestic heavens had bloomed, as if the condensed human world had appeared here. It was an extremely frightening scene. The immortal world's earth trembled, and billions of ancient worlds resonated. The order of laws that flew out of Su Yan's body vaguely transformed into a boundless majestic figure that crossed the long river of time, roamed the past, present, and future, and was invincible. Boom! Heaven and earth exploded, and space-time collapsed. Large cracks appeared one after another. The scene was difficult to describe. It was as if the world had collapsed, and the majestic figure of the monarch walked on the long river of time. It was unknown where it was, or which step of history it was in. It was as if an invincible giant of the long river of time had shaken off the past and present, and had ascended to the immortal world. Enough, enough, stop, quickly stop. Small pagoda kept roaring. Dao Shui was almost exhausted, and its face was pale. It was weak, and its spirit was dispirited. The monarch blood in its body was almost exhausted. It coughed up blood, and its body was on the verge of collapse. It was difficult for it to get up. Follow me, quickly, quickly, quickly. Big Gold Child roared. When Su Yan decided to kill his way out and leave behind the treasures on his body, Big Gold Child also crawled out of the stone book space. The immortal world has already been sealed. How do we leave? Spacetime Emperor tried to use his strongest battle strength to break open a path, but the immortal worlds had already become indistinct. The entire immortal world seemed to have turned into a bloody prison, and there was no way to leave. Go to the burial realm, quickly follow me. This is the only way out right now. Big Gold Child decisively made a decision. The cave dwelling left behind by Bury the Heavens was a land of death. Without Big Gold Child leading the way, no one could enter. Su Yin, quickly leave. Old Azure Dragon let out a loud cry. The image of the master of the celestial court indistinctly appeared, suppressing the 3 bleeding corpses. Small Pagoda was furious. This order of laws did not have the complete order of the Celestial Emperor, or else why would it have to fear these broken bones? Moreover, the Dao Shui's monarch blood could not maintain the order of the Celestial Court for a long time. Suppress and kill. Within the ancestral lands of the 3 monarch clans, the 3 great experts roared. They clearly saw who had left behind the order of laws. This was the great existence that had almost forced the 2 great monarch clans to their deaths. Kill. The 3 bleeding corpses rumbled. Heaven and earth completely changed. The people of the world were alarmed to discover that the entire immortal world was rumbling. Endless energy of order flowed in reverse, surging towards the source. Heavens! The entire world trembled. The supreme, killing intent of the entire immortal world was mobilized. Was this the truth? This should be considered an unrivaled method that only the master of the immortal world could possess, right? How long? Crossing the long river of time and space, a figure headed towards the immortal world. This figure was so indistinct that it could not be seen. Sometimes it turned into an energy substance. Sometimes it turned into an indistinct figure. An indistinct figure. A great battle erupted. This was the true meaning of a world-ending battle. Nothing could be seen clearly. The universe beyond the heavens was completely destroyed. Great cracks appeared one after another, even affecting the space beyond the heavens, affecting the boundless land of death and ruin. The 33 levels of Heaven's Burial Cave rotated within Su Yan's body, stabilizing his half-crippled body. He braved the great storm of destruction and crossed over to the burial world. With Su Yan's current speed, he could cross 1,000,000 ancient worlds in a short time. However, the place he left was completely destroyed, turning into a land of death, the icy cold land of the universe. Billions of layers of destruction and order intertwined, affecting 1/10 of the immortal world's territory and causing it to fall into the abyss. A great calamity. All living beings howled in grief. A great calamity caused by a mere young emperor. It was so ridiculous that it was going to destroy the immortal world. Once an existence like the master of the celestial court was involved, it was a sign of great fear. The Xian people were already green with regret, but it was useless to say anything now. You can fight when you want to fight, and leave when you want to leave. Suddenly, a cold voice penetrated Su Yan's mind and resounded in his primordial spirit. It was as if 10,000 years had covered Su Yan's soul. Su Yan felt a chill run down his spine. The moment he turned around, he saw blood boiling in the space-time, covering the boundless space-time. This was the awakening of a sleeping prehistoric beast. Its aura was boundless and terrifying. The celestial court can't do it anymore. A woman in black walked over. With every step she took, it was as if she had crossed the sea of chaos and stepped out of the reincarnation road. She rushed towards Su Yin in an instant. The ancestor has come out of the mountain gate. The second ancestor has come out of seclusion. The experts of the reincarnation imperial tribe roared. This was the legendary existence of the reincarnation imperial tribe, a woman in black. It was impossible to see her clearly. She closed in on Su Yin endlessly, like an invincible giant in the long river of history. Ah! Su Yin screamed miserably. It was extremely difficult for him to resist. The 33 layers of Heaven's Burial Cave were trembling. An unimaginable power attacked Su Yin, covering the entire space-time. Countless auras rippled out and collapsed the outer world. It could be said that a supreme expert had descended. The woman in black was like the reincarnation king who walked in the darkness. She was respectfully called the second ancestor of reincarnation. This person's expression was cold and emotionless. She bent her finger and pointed, wanting to directly kill Su Yan's primordial spirit. Su Yan sighed in his heart. He was powerless to reverse the situation. In an instant, a bright light flashed from Su Yan's body. It was like rays of sword light that surrounded his body, isolating the power of the woman in black. The woman in black's expression sank. Her fingertip glowed and gushed out the strongest Emperor Dao law. It suppressed the sword light protecting Su Yan, causing it to distort and explode at any time. How dare you? In an instant, the woman in black's eyes widened in anger. The thing she was most worried about had finally happened. As expected, there was a terrifying leader secretly spying on them. The moment she left the ancestral court, a ray of sword light fell from the space-time where the ancestral land of reincarnation was located. It was extremely bright, and a huge sword embryo appeared between heaven and earth. In an instant, it split open the protective runes of the ancestral land of reincarnation. No, the great calamity of extermination suddenly descended upon the world. It was boundlessly violent. The ancestral land of reincarnation was breached. Billions of rays of sword light erupted, and the densely packed reincarnation runes of the ancestral land were directly cut open. One sword light after another swept through the ancestral land. The great emperor races of the immortal world trembled. In the ancient world where the ancestral land of reincarnation was located, a sea of blood floated. Corpses filled the sky and fell uniformly. One after another, the heads of immortal kings flew into the sky and exploded into pieces. The mysterious skeleton made its move, domineering heaven and earth. It did the opposite and broke through the ancestral land of reincarnation. The sky was covered in blood, and a large number of immortal kings fell. Even the ancestral court was trembling. In the end, a corner of the world collapsed, causing a world-destroying disaster. Chapter 2084. Reincarnation Ancestral Land became unstable. Bloody radiance surged in this time and space that covered the sun. A bitter aura surged, triggering a world-ending calamity. Piece after piece of ruined bones, burning to the extreme, also erupted, outlining an indistinct black-clothed man. He raised his hand, recalling the immortal execution sword. In the end, he reversed the flow of power, releasing a sword at the peak, slaughtering the entire ancestral land until a sea of blood overflowed. The entire world trembled. Reincarnation Ancestral Land encountered great changes. Previously, the master of the celestial court broke through the ancestral court, causing the clan's ancestral land's defensive power to be much weaker than before. Otherwise, the black-clothed woman would have already taken action. Now, the mysterious skeleton was secretly watching. In the end, it seized the opportunity to heavily injure the reincarnation emperor clan again, beating the ancestral land until it was about to collapse. Sword Ancestor. Within the celestial race's ancestral land, a bronze-skinned man overseeing the clan roared. He reached out a large hand, boundless and vast, crossing the great cosmos, slaughtering towards the sword ancestor who was currently unleashing a great slaughter. You are still alive. The Xian people's white-clothed man's face fell. Back then, the sword ancestor could be compared to them, but now he was nothing more than a pile of ruined bones, yet he still dared to interfere in this battle. He also erupted with power, opening his mouth and spitting out a mouthful of air that crossed millions and millions of li. The instant he swooped down, this breath was vast and boundless, rushing towards the reincarnation emperor clan. This scene made the black-clothed woman's expression slightly ease. Things already reached this point. She couldn't return. She had to get rid of Su Yan. Reincarnation's second ancestor's fingertips immediately became terrifying, crushing the sword radiance, protecting Su Yan endlessly, penetrating his flesh. It even pressed against Su Yan's chest, making the 33 heavens tremble fiercely, about to explode. Su Yan roared in grief and indignation. It was extremely painful. At the critical moment of destruction, Su Yan's flesh burned fiercely, tin-colored precious blood surging. An extremely terrifying scene appeared behind him. Primal chaos like a sea, vile earth appearing. Indistinct Emperor clan figures appeared one after another, heading towards the ancestor who created the world, treading on the long river of history to return. What? What kind of irregular scene is that? Why is this type of irregular scene appearing? Could it be related to the most ancient existence? The black-clothed woman's eyes opened wide. Even someone as formidable as her found it difficult to discern any clues about Su Yan. This sort of phenomenon was rather absurd, and it was as if the emperors had returned and called upon the world to look down upon the three dimensions. Su Yan's body suddenly burst into flames. Under the threat of death, the tin-colored blood erupted and caused Su Yan's flesh to burn even more fiercely. The phenomenon of the return of the emperors became even more intense. Suppress. The black-clothed woman glared angrily. A vertical eye opened between her brows, illuminating the sea of stars and projecting the most powerful emperor Dao Law order. She simply forced herself into the long river of history to resist the return of this mysterious and terrifying power. This woman was too strong. Su Yan was filled with hatred. At the same time, she stretched out her palms and attacked Su Yan's body. Roar, the space-time emperor, and old azure dragon attacked, but it was useless. The black-clothed woman was the most powerful emperor, and her might suppressed the universe. Her two large hands opened up the cycle of life and death, forcing the two great experts to tremble and cough up large amounts of blood. Su Yan, the space-time emperor, cried out in grief and indignation. In the end, there was still a huge gap between them and the most powerful emperor. Although the space-time emperor was infinitely close, the gap between them and old azure dragon was even greater. However, facing the most powerful emperor, even if there was a small gap, it was like ascending to the heavens. Su Yan's chest cracked, and his soul was about to scatter. His eyes were burning like torches, shooting out raging flames. He was unwilling to accept this, too unwilling. He had already walked the path of an expert. He believed that he would be invincible in the future. Now that the most powerful emperor wanted to kill him, Su Yan found it difficult to resist, and his body trembled. The 33 Heavens Heaven Burial Cave rumbled violently, facing the misfortune of being suppressed. Once the 33 heavens were lost, Su Yan would undoubtedly die. Kill! Suddenly, Su Yan roared because he realized that the Heaven Burial Cave was on the verge of exploding. The nine-colored damaged artifact that was dormant in his body had been revived. The nine-colored damaged artifact looked like a sword embryo. Su Yan held it in his bleeding hand. When the 10-colored precious blood in his body whistled, the nine-colored damaged artifact shone, flowing with an unimaginable aura. Suddenly, Su Yan realized that the nine-colored damaged artifact seemed to be one with the Heaven Burial Cave. When he activated the Heaven Burial Cave to activate the nine-colored damaged artifact, this damaged artifact was somewhat frightening. It was as if it had turned into a huge nine-colored heavenly coffin, suppressing the past, present, and future. Ah! Su Yan roared. His body was about to turn into a dried corpse in an instant. It was too difficult for this thing to revive. After draining Su Yan's origin essence, it finally erupted with the nine-colored damaged artifact's power and charged toward the black-clothed woman. It's it. The black-clothed woman's eyes widened. This was the artifact they had plotted to obtain in the past. But what was ridiculous was that it was in a damaged state. Why was it damaged? Who could damage this artifact? This artifact was related to the War of the Three Realms and the disputes of ancient times. The three great heavenly coffins fell into the three realms and caused a series of great battles. However, the nine-colored heavenly coffin was damaged. The remaining nine-colored damaged artifact suddenly became 1,000,000,000 times more terrifying. It emitted a source of power that destroyed the strongest emperor, Dao Law, pressing down on it. It even smashed the arm that was pressing on Su Yan's chest. Ah! The black-clothed woman cried out in pain. She was actually injured. One of her arms was broken, and blood was gushing out. The old Azure Dragon was shocked. Su Yan's 9-color damaged artifact couldn't be a fragment of a supreme, true treasure, could it? Otherwise, how could it break the black-clothed woman's arm in a single exchange? This 9-color damaged body was a little ridiculous. Cough, cough! Su Yan was coughing up blood. His eyes were blurry, and his ears were deaf. His injuries were even more severe. His immortal king body was shattering. He wanted to launch a second attack, but he no longer had any strength. He fell weakly into a pool of blood. I think I'm going to die, Su Yan muttered to himself. He had never felt so tired. He had never felt this tired before. After such a long and bloody battle, he was exhausted. His mind and will were blurry. Swish! Swish! In an instant, the Space-Time Emperor pulled Su Yan's damaged body and flew toward the distant world. No one can escape. The black-clothed woman was furious. She waved her single arm and pressed down on Su Yan again. Bitch, you've gone too far. The Space-Time Emperor roared furiously. The Three Realms' heavenly river flew out. The three rivers' auras went berserk as they circulated. The three rivers of different colors instantly produced a destructive storm that caused the river of time to become chaotic. You old bastard. The black-clothed woman was furious. The Space-Time Emperor's self-destruction of the Three Realms' heavenly river triggered the turbulence of time and space. It formed three colorful drains that were about to destroy the strongest Emperor's body. One had to know that the Three Realms' heavenly river was the strongest treasure. After all, the materials needed to forge it were quite high-end. She didn't expect the Space-Time Emperor to be willing to destroy the Three Realms' heavenly river to buy time for Su Yan. This was a great crisis. The black-clothed woman struggled with all her might. She used a lot of strength to fight her way out of the death gale. However, she also suffered great injuries. Her body was covered in blood, and her scattered hair had exploded. No one can escape. The black-clothed woman rebuked angrily. She was still calm. So what if you escaped to the burial ground? Bitch, bastard, go back and take a look at your ancestral land. The old Azure Dragon had a fiery temper. This made the black-clothed woman furious. This terrifying creature had gone mad. The thick earth collapsed endlessly, and the vast space-time rumbled and trembled. No one from the celestial court can escape. The black-clothed woman roared. The boundless sky exploded. It was so terrifying that it made all living things tremble. They felt that this world didn't exist anymore. The celestial world's environment was collapsing. This was the strongest emperor. He was above all living things in the universe and was respectfully called second ancestor by the reincarnation emperor race. It wasn't just the sword ancestor. The prehistoric big brother burned his life force in a great battle. The broken celestial pagoda fell down again and again. This was very crazy. Even the experts of the other two emperor clans didn't dare to leave their ancestral land. They were worried that a disaster would happen. This would become an irreparable loss. The three great experts started fighting in the reincarnation ancestral land. They wanted to let the strongest great emperors know that once they left, the supreme true treasures that were guarding their clans couldn't return. The three great emperors' clans were nothing. Su Yan, hold on. The space-time emperor had a bad premonition. Su Yan's primordial spirit was so weak that he couldn't see through it. As they approached the burial ground, Big Goldie moved them in. In the world of Burial Sky Ocean, Tai Baokai and the others had ugly expressions. Su Yan's injured body was bleeding continuously. His eyes were dim. The soldiers in the sky roared. They didn't help at all. In the end, Su Yan stood out and used his life to buy time for them to move their clans. They were full of guilt. These people kept roaring in grief. They were worried that something would happen to Su Yan. How could this be? Bamboo Moon cried. She had never seen Su Yan in such a state. After waving the 9-colored broken artifact, he seemed to be empty. His essence, energy, and spirit were leaking out. The spiritual emperor's chest breathed out, and divine essence kept leaking out. Every lump of matter could be called a divine medicine. It was relatively precious. However, no matter how strong the energy it emitted was, Su Yin could absorb it. It was like falling into an infinite divine pool. He couldn't see the bottom. Bastard. The old Azure Dragon's expression was gloomy. What was going on? Su Yin couldn't hear anything. His eyes were a bit blurry. He reached out with great difficulty and stroked Bamboo Moon's cheeks and her big belly. He said in a trembling voice, "This time, I've chosen a dead end. I've only let you down. Husband, don't say that. No matter what you do, I'll support you." Bamboo Moon cried bitterly. She had a bad premonition. She felt her stomach hurt again. She cried out in pain, and sweat poured down her body like rain. It was as if she was about to give birth. "Can I, Su Yin, survive?" Su Yin coughed up blood. Blood kept flowing out his body. He didn't know what was going on. It was as if he couldn't go back. It was as if his entire person was about to disappear. It was as if he had never come to this world. Was this emptiness? The 9-colored broken artifact was too fierce. His physical body had undergone an outrageous mutation. It was as if the 33 Heavens burial cave had merged with Su Yan's body. The space-time emperor's expression was ugly. He stared at the 9-colored broken artifact. He wanted nothing more than to destroy it. It was all because of it. There was a big problem with this thing. It had hollowed out Su Yan's vitality. Even his essence, energy, and spirit were gone. It was as if everything had been buried. She's about to give birth. Bamboo Moon is about to give birth. Fairy Xia shouted. Su Yin suddenly became alert. He forced himself to pull himself together. His child was about to be born.